How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar, and I am not alone today to talk about your most wanted DC Omnis of 2025. I am joined by these wonderful panel of people, and I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves first. I did that backwards. I'm so sorry, Peter. To my right, I meant Lars, of course. Lars, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Lars Pearson, publisher and editor-in-chief of Norweigen Press, formerly of Wizard Magazine. And boy, this is an exciting show we're doing here. I mean, this is the annual event. It's really like a Christmas carol, okay? If you've not joined us before, you're going to see visions of Christmas yet to come, okay? But unlike Scrooge, you're going to want these visions to actually happen. And then, like Scrooge, at the end of the book, you're going to spend a bunch of money, but you're going to like it. All right?
God, I think we're just all viewers on that.
I don't think people appreciate how Dickensian this channel is. I mean, Omar, Charles Dickens, they are basically two peas in a pod.
Like half my viewers are looking up
200
Johnny. Like,
did you just curse on here saying Dickens?
Not in the first 5 minutes. Come on, folks. We've learned our lesson.
And right underneath Lars is Chris. What's up, Chris?
Hey,
Who are you?
I'm Chris. I am the co-host of Marvel Alliance on the Geek First Podcast YouTube channel. So yeah, we got to bring a little Marvel in here, but also the co-host of the OPB Buyer's Guide on the Brave and the Boys channel.
Excellent. And to his left, holding up a dog mask, is none other than
the adorable Omnidog from Omnidog's Vault on YouTube. Thank you for inviting me. In fact, I am the longest DC reader in my house.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you can give yourself that award.
You get a trophy for that one.
Yeah, no, not bad.
Been reading DC Comics for 60 years.
Oh my God.
I know that hurts to say, but by God, I'm going to wear it as a badge of honor today.
How much of that do you remember, though? That's the important thing.
I read a little Red Lanterns today for an overview, and that's it.
That's all you remember?
I don't know. I don't even remember who, Superman, Batman, who are they?
So literally, like, every comic is your first comic. Even if you've read it 16 times.
It's that fresh. Yeah.
That's why those intros in the beginning are so important for Jess.
I will say that Superman movie, the electric guitar rendition of the John Williams Superman 78 score has been in my head all day.
Oh.
So I guess I'm pretty pumped for that movie, whoever is going to be in it. Super somebody.
Superman, that's right. And to his left is none other than Tigereyes, the gentleman that started this poll for Marvel Omnis 14 years ago. Was that right? Is that how long you've been doing it? Was that 15?
Right? So the next year will be 14.
14 years. Long time. And this is our second annual DC poll. And it was a lot of fun to put together. And last but certainly not least is my partner in crime, Crisis with a K.
Hello, everybody. My home on the internet is Crushing Crisis with a K.com and also Crushing Crisis on YouTube, where I talk about how to collect all of these marvelous DC and Marvel books. And so this, to me, as Lars alluded to earlier, really is my Christmas, because it's what when I found out all the gifts that we want the most.
Yeah.
And I've really been having a DC rebirth lately with the advent of the finest editions and all the Wonder Woman omnibuses that they're pumping out this year. I feel like I'm in the height of my DC collecting, and Kid Crisis has discovered I have a whole shelf of Wonder Woman omnibuses, and she has now read in the past 2 months up to Wonder Woman Golden Age Volume 5. She has stated she would like to be the foremost expert in New Zealand on Golden Age Wonder Woman. I said, I don't know if that's a very high bar to clear, but I support you in this endeavor.
Well, first New Zealand, then the world.
Did she grow up watching Near Mint Condition?
This is true.
I think she has grown up overhearing Near Mint Condition through the wall of this office, which really could have some serious negative effects on her development. I don't know.
No, it has been proven that it doesn't, actually. Kids are now smarter because of near mint condition. You're welcome.
No,
Will.
your kids certainly are.
Well,
That's what I'm shooting for.
Peter, you raised a good point. There's also a bit of Oliver Twist in our DNA. We keep going to the studios and or the publishers and going, please, sir, we want some more. We want some more.
Just a few books, sir.
Just a few books. And that's the ultimate form is tonight on the show.
New Zealander, right?
Shut
Okay, so let me get to some super chats, and then we got some people to thank really quick. Omar got that skibbity Riz. Thank you so much for making me saying that ridiculous thing, Mr. Tex. I hope it was worth it. Before you start on DC, can you ask Lars to comment about the failure?
How about we do that? We'll do that at the end of the show. we will come back to that at the end.
Boy, you already got his blood pressure up, Bruce, with that. Steve. All Superman in the top 10, please, and thank you. Happy stream, guys. Love all that you do. Thank you, and thank all of you that are watching live and watching this later. Thank you all for taking the time to vote and for taking it serious, like thinking about it, what books you would want, like realistically. I think it's amazing. There are people that voted, like I came ready, and then there are people like I've got a week to think about it. Let me think about what I'm going to vote for. It's been an amazing ride, and now that we have a contact at DC, the director of collected editions, Dustin Kitchens, is my contact over there, and he told me that I can name him. So thanks to him and all his folks in the collected editions department.
Yes,
we got some great things coming, and they have been doing an amazing job, and hopefully this list will help steer them also in some other books that they may or may not have thought about. But here we go.
We have been saying many times of late how much the DC slits have been kicking it. I mean, they have really improved, and they really have it together.
Yeah, his whole team, man, they've been knocking it out of the park. So hopefully,
my wallet's crying every time they put out new catalogs.
Yeah, man, there's some great stuff coming too. Thank you so much, Neil. Hello, everyone. Looking forward to the stream. Serious question time. How much would it cost for me to camp out in any of your libraries for a weekend? I will bring my own sleeping bag. Just need a corner of your library to situate it. I can price out everybody's library if you want me to, Neil. Just email me. And I got.
Do it off the top of your head. Give us a ball.
I'm not gonna embarrass you.
But we'll have to charge you extra for using the restroom in the house. I mean, you can go in the backyard for free. That's perfectly fine. But there's a surcharge, for the water and stuff.
Lars is almost there. He's almost there, guys. Okay, Omar, top 10 crisis, worst things. How about we come back after we reveal the top 60? So that's what we're talking about today. The top 60.
Carisses.
It's crises with K.
Carisses.
So top 60 is what we agreed on that everybody should get, and what I sent over to Dustin Kitchens and his wonderful team at DC Comics. So they have the lists that you're about to see. Before getting started, Peter, is it all in the slideshow?
It's all in there, baby.
It's all in the slideshow. It's time to share the slideshow. Okay. So everybody, hold on to your butts.
All right.
Let's get started.
You got it there, Jess? Don't let it escape.
All right, here we go.
Ooh.
And we are kicking it off with your most wanted omnibus poll. That's right. It's the same thumbnail you saw earlier, but now in slideshow format. All right, the deets. Give me the deets.
All right, well, we had about 9 days in total to vote on this poll, and the results are in from over 2,500 votes. That's over a 40% increase in votes compared to the amount of votes that we had last year. So there are more DC Omnibus fans involved than ever. This year, the poll was significantly expanded. We did tons of research behind the scenes for a total of 667 titles, just to keep it clean, pulled from our extensive review of DC's continuity. And so this year we include DC's licenses, WB properties, and all of Vertigo, which was a hot demand last year. So here's the little trivia to whet your palate before we dig in. Of those 667 books, 98.5 of them received at least one vote. So there's only a few that didn't get votes, and in some cases there's just things that were titled badly or mapped unclearly. That's an us problem, not a books problem. 60% of the books received a first vote. So while not everything is somebody's favorite, the majority of things are somebody's favorite. And finally, 33% of books, fully a third, received at least one vote in every place, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way to 10th. So this is a poll where everything is popular. There are no, bad picks. And we are just looking today at the best of the best that got the most votes from the most people, our top 60.
And I know I'm going to get this question. Hey, where did my favorite book end up? If it's not in the top 60, I do put a list on our Patreon, the entire list of all 667 titles. So you can see where your book went. Otherwise, I will be here all day answering the question, hey, Omar, where is this book that I voted for? So thank you, James, for posting the link to our Patreon.
Well,
okay.
Thank you all. 2,500 votes, lest we forget, is a lot. That is the size of my hometown. So, yeah. A lot.
Okay. These are the special thanks. Thank you so much for doing this. We are thanking Jim, of course, the near mint condition poll master. He's the one that puts everything behind the scenes, has to take out all the bots. There were some this time, but not as many as last year. So good on you all for keeping it honest. Brand X, of course, our DC mapper and chief. I love that title. Did he give himself that title, or was that you?
I gave him a promotion this year because as I went through the titles, I realized how many of them I do not know a darn thing about, and it was either Tigereyes or Brand who probably put them on the poll last year. So I think he was up for a promotion.
You promoted him. Okay. And yes, seal of approval from Near Mint Condition. Dom of X, the launch co-host, of course, and did all the images, put the thumbnail together. James Abel, guy in the chair. So much more than just the guy in the chair, though. The DC licenses mapper came in with some crazy ideas, and sure enough, those books, there were enough of them to make an Omni. Larry's Library contributing to our mapping, so thank you so much for that, Larry, if you're watching right now. And Taylor Talks Comics, of course, not only our social media guy here at Near Mint Condition, also has his own show, Taylor Talks Comics, and he is the poll support. He's the one that put it together. The backbone of the polls are done by him. So thank you all that are not here. I mean, here on Earth still, but, not here tonight. Let's clarify that. Okay. Let's move on.
Okay, so here's just a few notes because, as we always say, and it's become our mantra, this is a titles poll, not a mapping poll. All the mapping that we do beforehand, all the mapping I've done on crushingcrisis.com, all the mapping we're presenting to you today, it's all speculative, and it's for the fun of seeing what could go into these books, because we're all what? Nerds. Collected edition nerds. But when it came to voting on the poll, people were voting for titles. So people were not voting for a title whether or not it included one particular one-shot or not in it. They were voting for titles that were representative of the books they want to see DC release. Ultimately, our maps have no influence on DC in the long run unless they get in touch with us and ask us some questions. They are going to map the way they are going to map. But we did try to respect the trends and how DC collects things. So when it comes to pre-crisis omnibuses, especially for lines that are ongoing lines of books, DC has a very specific size that they adhere to on those books for Golden Age, for Silver Age, for Bronze Age, and so we tried to make sure that we were titling things that could conceivably hold that amount of issues. Same for post-crisis omnibuses and modern omnibuses. We have seen some huge ones like Justice League Dark, and so we let that influence how much we think a single title could cover. But again, this was a titles poll, and the titles we are presenting today are what got voted for, not the perspective maps that we are sharing.
All right. Nothing crazy. Did anything go over 1,600 pages? 1,700
No, we
pages?
won't let it. 3 times in DC's history that I know, there have been ones that have been over 1,600 pages. And before we continue, we want to talk about what got announced from last year. So last year's top 60 that we presented a year ago, there were 13 books announced. And this is those 13 books, except for, am I counting? Yeah, that's 13. And so including 7 from the top 20. So it was a pretty solid amount announced from last year. We hope even more from this year. So all these books are out of the poll this year, but some of them, of course, have a volume 2, or in some cases a volume 1, which might appear on the poll this year. We are seeing how the votes might have gone. And with that, I think we are ready, Omar, to dive in.
I am ready. Little correction here. So that's strike 1 for Peter. John Ostrander
what'd I do?
will be 3 volumes. 3 volumes for John Ostrander's Suicide Squad.
We'll see.
What do you mean we'll see?
We'll see.
It's not about to be 3 volumes. There's no argument with that. All right.
These, by the way, were these are not the titles of the printed books. They didn't print Birds of Prey by Gail Simone and put a volume 2 in the spine. This is what they were called on the poll last year. So
thank you.
That's where Suicide Squad volume 1 of 2 came from.
Okay, so let me correct.
Strike
what I-
rescinded. Take it back.
Hold on. I'm a man of honor in my word. That's strike 2 against Crisis for not clarifying what he did. So strike 2. All right. Are you ready for your top 60 most wanted DC Omnis of 2025? Of course you are.
I'm emotionally prepared. All right.
Number 60, Green Lantern New Guardians, the New 52. We've had a resurgence of interest in the Green Lantern characters in Omni format with Green Lantern Corps finally coming out, Peter Tomasi's run, and then, of course, Red Lantern's finally coming out. And now people want that New Guardians era collected. And this is, of course, the New 52 era, and including the crossovers with Blue Beetle and New Guardians Futures End in there. This has got the story of Kyle Rayner and each lantern representing, of course, the different emotional spectrum. It's a lot of fun. Tony Bedard, I think, heading this one for most of the run. These have been available in trade paperback format, but that's not what we're talking about today. So that is your number 60.
And it's important to point out that we're just going to continue. No, everybody's already seen it.
Oh no.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, a lot of the Lanterns books in the New 52 crossed over, but if you look at how these trades are mapped, they only ever collected one of the crossover issues, which is Green Lantern Annual 2. So all of those Robert Venditti books have all of those crossovers in them. This probably would not need to pick up more than an issue or two of that to read just fine.
Just a quick note. I've experience has taught me just how tenacious Green Lantern fans are. When I was at Wizard, Hal Jordan had his downfall, and there was Kyle Rayner, but there were these hardcore fans, and they really wanted the return of Hal Jordan. They wanted the reinstatement of the Green Lantern Corps. They took out a full-page ad in Wizard magazine to promote this viewpoint, and at the time, the cost of a full-page ad in Wizard magazine was $10,000.
I feel like I spent my money well. We've argued about this before. I stand by it.
How much?
$10,000.
$10,000. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
my daughter had to go to public school for that. I spent all her tuition.
Sacrifices have to be made for the betterment of all.
It's true.
Yeah.
Good that you knew where your priorities were.
We're
Dude,
not-
that's nuts. I need to start charging Lars more, is what I've just learned.
Yeah, clearly, yeah.
All right, number 59, because I slipped. My bad, Peter. Superman by Johns and Busiek. So we have a Superman by Kurt Busiek, hardcover, standard size hardcover. We have an absolute edition of Jeff Johns' Superman, but doesn't include every story. What we did here was, this is the post-Infinite Crisis era, when they were relaunching Superman, when he had lost his powers and he was getting his powers back, both in Action Comics and in Superman. And we kind of put them together here and think that would make a really great Omni post Infinite Crisis. 1 year later, Omni, I guess, is what this would be.
Yeah, and a lot of folks, this is one of the most demanded options on the poll. It did exist last year, but the title was not this clear. And the reason it's Johns and Busiek is because there was kind of like a brain trust piloting the titles at this point. Even if another writer popped in for a one-shot, it was kind of all part of this overall thread. And we've seen those Johns collections skip around, be parts of the story, be an absolute of just parts of it. But we've never really had it all comprehensively in one place. And there's enough, I think, for two volumes here. So there's a lot of excitement about seeing this mid-2000s post-Infinite Crisis Superman. It was by far the most suggested book in the suggestions last year, even though it was already on the poll, which told us that the title could be much clearer.
It definitely takes this part of the era, like you said, post Infinite Crisis, takes what Batman says in Infinite Crisis is the last time Superman you've inspired anyone was when you were dead. Takes that
Love it.
And that Johns and Busiek take that idea and say okay, let's take that and show how we can be inspirational again. They did a really great job, and there's some great arcs in this volume.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this era too. Yes, I will super chat for every new 52. Well, we shall see, Project Viking, my friend. All right, moving on to 58. Is it good? We good, Peter? Got everything
let's
out?
go, baby.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on to 58. Green Arrow by Chuck Dixon. This is the era that takes place immediately after the Mike Grell run. Mike Grell leaves and Chuck Dixon takes over. There was a trade paperback that was Green Arrow Connor Hawk. It was in the catalog a few years back, but it never got made. So this era has not really been collected. It takes place before the events in Kevin Smith's run that has recently been collected in omnibus format with Judd Winnick and Brad Meltzer. So this is a big chunk of Green Arrow that we're missing from the 90s, including the big thing that happens to our lead character without going into spoilers.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why it's called Connor Hawk for a while.
Well, also, it was weird to dispatch the main character and bring in, the new one, and like the numbering continued. They didn't make a big relaunch out of it, so it feels like it kind of slips in there. But yeah, it's a big change.
Well,
They
DC,
did the
of
same
course, had
thing
tried
with
that
Lantern,
with several. Well, Wonder Woman had a different character, Batman had a different character, but this one, Aquaman had appointed, but this one stuck for a while.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah, this one was around for a long time. There were a lot of people that were like, Connor Hawk was their Green Arrow. And Connor still stuck around like during the Kevin Smith and then eventually the Judd Winnick run. Technically, Lars didn't spoil it. He said replaced. He used the word very carefully.
It's a discount.
Discard. Gosh dang it, Lars.
Again, spoilers on something that happened during the Clinton administration. I mean,
Wow.
Now we really got to date it.
Now some people are Googling Clinton. All right, moving on to number 57. Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, Volume 1. That's a Gil Kane cover right there. Collecting the Green Lantern 123 to 200. Effectively the 1980s, pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths, to moving on to the Bronze Age. That's really cool that people voted, that it made it in the top 60, that this era made it in the top 60. Jess, being the reader of DC Comics for 60 years, do you fondly remember this era of Green Lantern?
I do not.
Okay.
Fondly, or do I remember it at all?
Do you remember it at all?
No. No, this was the 80s, Omar. I think we know what...
Never mind.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
You might recall he spent the 80s in a drug-induced haze, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had more in common with Speedy than Connor Hawk.
Lars with the spoilers again. Okay.
So this one was another one that drew a lot of passion and commentary because, of course, Steve Englehart writes later on in this run into the 80s. This would start at about the middle of 1979 because that Hard Traveling Heroes omnibus with Green Lantern and Green Arrow is effectively Green Lantern, a Bronze Age omnibus. So that's one of the only books that's kind of made it through all the way to the 80s, in addition to Justice League. And so some people just wanted to put the Englehart stuff on here, but it's not really clear where you would break this run just to get that court stuff in it that's towards the end. So really, we kind of just said, you know what? In all cases where the mapping was ambiguous, our rule was we start at the start. And so that's why this is Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, because the title changes to the Green Lantern Corps later in the run. There's over 100 issues for this, so we're looking at 2 to 3 omnibuses to cover it all.
Yeah, it is a really interesting development of Green Lantern. There's some interesting stuff in here, interesting creators. Dave Gibbons does a lot of issues in here. It's good stuff.
All right. That's 2 Green Lanterns in the 60 and 57 slot.
Yeah.
Number 56, Lars.
Oh, okay.
there it goes.
All right.
This day is here.
All right. Legion of Superheroes, New Earth, Volume 1, a.k.a. the reboot era. So this is the era that takes place after 5 years later. You know what? I'm going to do you a solid. Jess, explain this era. I know you were... No, not you.
Please, someone explain it for me, too.
Just do you have your Legion ring on? I have my...
Oh, my God. He does have a Legion ring.
Wow.
Here we go.
Yep.
Okay.
Excuse me, flight. No, I will let Lars speak on this era. Lars is much more intellectually invested in this era than I.
Oh, Lars will get you
what
everywhere
happened
with
in-
Lars.
What happened in 0 Hour, Lars?
Yeah,
that
well,
makes
okay.
this era?
The Legion, for better or worse, has been subject to a lot of very, very hard reboots, and this was the aftermath of the first hard reboot in 0 Hour. The characters, a lot of them were defaulted back to being teenagers and whatnot, and and this is really when two titles are running simultaneously. You've got the main Legion title, and you got Legionnaires running side by side. So, I mean, the whole idea was to go back to basics. This is the point when Mark Waid, among others, realized that the old Legion continuity, in their opinion, couldn't be saved. We just need to start over. So that's where it does. Yeah.
Lars, quick
Clean break.
question. Who has a more complicated history, Donna Troy or the Legion?
Donna Troy. I think I can make slightly better sense of all the Legion reboots than I can. Whereas Donna Troy, there's
with Peter.
The Legion, although there's reboots, they're kind of clean. Whereas Donna Troy, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what the hell that means.
I will say that this when Peter reached out to Lars and me for information on this. This is where Peter learned that Karate Kid was not based on the movie, that he was an actual character in Legion of Superheroes, which may have been the high point of my relationship with Peter. I thought that was the greatest.
It is interesting to note that DC had Karate Kid and Marvel had the editor Ralph Macchio. I think that's how he pronounces it different than Ralph Macchio. But I was like, man, this is so crazy. Any other thoughts and prayers about Legion of Superheroes New York 1?
I'll say this, that this run it's not necessarily going to collect to the end of both of those titles, although that's how we have it listed here, because Abnett and Lanning take over for the last 3 or 4 issues of both of these titles, and they kind of launch into their own era. What's interesting is there's 3 miniseries that happen towards the end of this era that actually in continuity happened before the Abnett and Lanning stuff. So in reality, if we got this, which would surely again be probably 3 omnibus set, because there are over 60 issues from each of these titles to collect, this would probably also pack in those 3 miniseries that are listed at the bottom, because they really have no place in what would be a subsequent Abnett and Lanning omnibus line.
Yeah, and if anything, the Abnett and Lanning stuff is probably better regarded, just because, their consistency gives it a certain shape. And also they felt the need to kick it up a notch. It had kind of been treading water for a little bit, and they're like, okay, we're going to do Legion Lost and really, give it some gas here.
Legion Lost was so good.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Probably can't stay, but joining in spirit, by the way, I'm the person who voted for Dial H for Hero and the Haunted Tank. In case you're wondering who would want that kind of thing. Haunted Tank, man. That got a lot of love. But we'll see if it made it in the top 60. Anything else, Lars?
No, that's good choice.
Moving on to...
Oh, okay. Oh, there we are. Oh,
I thought I made a mistake. Oh my gosh.
That is really how the votes came out. Jim would not allow any tomfoolery into this results stream.
I might have expected this one would have been a bit higher than the other one, just because, again, there are an awful lot of people who like Abnett and Lanning.
This has some phenomenal stories with great artwork by Olivier Coipel. I think it's the first time I saw his art before he did that Avengers run with Jeff Johns, and now he's just like a household name that most people can't pronounce, including myself.
Well, and if anything, it's a trial run for Abnett and Lanning's later cosmic stuff, Annihilation, Guardians of the Galaxy, that sort of thing. But they cut their teeth here, as it were.
Legion.
So there's really 2 halves of this run, and I don't know it well, so I would have to defer to Lars, but this run, as we just alluded to, starts at the very end of those 2 series that ran past 0 Hour into the reboot continuity, and then Abnett and Lanning launch a series of series that carry their stories. So first is Legion Lost, then comes Legion Worlds. If you add up everything in that box, we're around the 40 issue mark, but then there's also another 38 issues that come after that, which is The Legion 2001, so that would actually probably be a volume 2 of this run. So Lars, why are they lost for people that are not acquainted with this?
Well, it's a smaller cast of the Legion, and they are literally lost in space, and they have to get home. Prior to this, one of the things that DC fell into this pattern of insisting there had to be more than one Legion title at any given time. I'm not sure that actually was a good idea. But here, Abnett and Lanning are really trying to streamline things and just focus their storytelling. So, and it shows.
So for people who are Legion curious, is this a good jumping on point?
There's dabbling in Legion. I don't know if you can dabble in Legion.
Yes, it is a good starting. It's not necessarily my first best starting point, but yes, it is a good one because it's intended to be, easy access.
I agree with that. Has Ralph Macchio ever written the Karate? Whoa, that That I don't think so. I think he was a Marvel guy, just a Marvel guy. But that would have been crazy, and that definitely would have blown Crisis's brain. Like that would have been crazy.
I find it confusing enough when I see his name in the editor box, so I don't need more layers of confusion.
Why is
Tiger-
Daniel LaRusso giving me an afterword about this epic collection? Yeah,
Tigereyes, are you a Legion fan of any era?
This was my number one pick.
Whoa!
Okay,
Were you
okay.
just gonna keep that to yourself?
Yes, it is.
I
It's a
thought
good-
it was Lars buying a bunch of votes.
So,
Yeah, and this is one of the early works by, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Oliver Coipel.
I did it for you earlier.
Yeah,
Weren't
no,
you paying
I know.
attention?
Quapel.
Coipel. Yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Wow, really, people really want to see the weird Omar's takes on.
They gotta watch my channel more. There's all sorts of weird shakes on
Yeah.
there.
Oh, the things that you say here, I'm like, I am like offended, personally. All right, moving on to. Oh, this is
Okay.
good.
We
So
skipped
tie.
54 because there's a tie for 53.
Okay.
All right, that's why there's no 54. Thank you for explaining that. This Swamp Thing by Rick Veitch and Doug Wheeler, including the lost issue that was never published, and it is after Alan Moore's run, and it will take place before Nancy Collins' run, and I'm sure that's written in the notes, but I'm just going off the cuff here. Also, we get the unpublished, which is what I said. Okay,
It's almost like you may have written this slide last year, Omar.
Oh yeah, good call, past Omar. But yeah, this is that run that fits perfectly in between. And we've gotten a lot of love for Swamp Thing over the years. Like Swamp Thing has been collected so well, a lot better than characters like Firestorm or even the All-Star Squadron. It's pretty cool.
Well, I think they're lucky that Alan Moore wrote for them. I mean, that Alan Moore Swamp Thing, lifts all boats with Swamp Thing.
Yeah, I see a lot of love in the chat for this one here. This was my number one. That's awesome.
Nice.
That's,
Yeah,
that's why,
well,
that's
I
why
think-
I'm holding off of collecting that compendium right now. I'm just
There,
will
I think
it
there's
happen?
2 trades that they're doing,
Yeah.
Chris. I don't, maybe 3.
Hmm.
The first one's out already.
Yeah, I'm holding off on that. I'm just want it to be a hardcover.
Of
Well, I
this
think
era?
Swamp Thing on
Yeah.
the poll really benefits from this is like a lightning rod. We've gotten so much that now it's easy for people to kind of focus fire because I think we're down to like two options. So that's always an effect on all of these polls. The one that's remaining starts rising and rising as the people get more and more rabid about the one hole that's left on their shelf.
Yeah, that's true as well.
There you go, Peter. Ralph Macchio did edit the Master Kung Fu. So very, very close.
Okay.
Since Chris wants the hardcover, I will throw myself on the 3 compendiums. I will sacrifice.
The Wheeler
Thank you,
stuff
Jess.
has
What?
not been collected yet, but it will be by the time those trades are done. So I guess in a way, yes, maybe soon. What was it tied with? Outsiders by Judd Winnick, one of my votes.
Okay.
This is definitely one of my votes. I love this run. This run and the Teen Titans by Jeff Johns go hand in hand. Oh, man. And who mapped this? Why is the Return of Donna Troy not in here? Titans Young Justice. I'm glad that's in there. Material from issue number 1. Outsiders 1 through 50. Annual number 1. And then it became Batman and the Outsiders, much like the series in the 80s. Oh, wait. There's a note. Wow, it's tempting to add. Okay. That's on me for not reading that first. Okay.
Well, and it's one of these things where in the 2000s era, DC is much more willing to put out a big chunker if they know that it's just going to knock something out. That DC does not want to have to market multiple Outsiders omnibuses if they can get out of that. And there's a whole other, as you just mentioned, Batman and the Outsiders run that comes after this. So if you do some addition here, we're hovering right around the 60 issue mark already. Would it break the bank to add 4 more issues? Not necessarily. And so if they could still get it out in 1, I think I agree with Omar. It would probably make sense to put the return of Donna Troy in here.
Yeah, absolutely. They put it in the Jeff Johns Omni too. So it would make sense to put it here too. Because after that, it's when the characters start switching teams. They're like, I'm going to go hang out with the Teen Titans. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going with the Outsiders. Oh, man, I love this era. It was such a fun era. What is with this? What is this, Lars? This is how Legion won? There were some great Wizard articles about this title.
Lars, he knows the bar.
I'm struck a little speechless and don't quite know what to make of this.
I also miss Judd Winnick writing. He was killing it on
Yeah.
Green Lantern, Outsiders, Green Arrow, and Exiles. over at
Exiles.
Marvel.
Exiles.
So good.
Yeah.
And his Batman run
They
too.
did put it in the John's Omni. Can somebody double check that for me? That's in either the chat. I'm pretty sure, almost 100%, that the Teen Titans by Jeff Johns. Wait. Or did I did a custom Omni of the Outsiders? It might have been me that put it in there. I'm almost
So
sure.
in your personal collection, it's included in there. But
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
necessarily in the published
It
version.
might not have been in the Omni.
No,
but-
I don't think it is in
Yeah,
the
I
published version
think
of Teen Titans by Johns.
Yeah, that's on me. It was in my custom Omni of Outsiders. So I remember fondly. Okay. Well, we should definitely add it to this then. So people can find out how she came back and why she's so hard to understand. Is it in the Infinite Crisis Omnibus? We're just going to have Chris stand up the whole time and check his books. Going to be our gopher.
I don't think it's in the Infinite Crisis Omnibus. I don't know. We'll take a look.
Dang it, now y'all got me second guessing myself. Maybe. All right, I'm gonna move on. It's not in the Infinite Crisis Omni. Thank you.
It's not. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that, Marcelo. Thank you, Chris. Number 52. Yes, this is another one of mine. Well, we didn't make it in the top 10. That's okay. Batman Contagion Legacy Aftermath. So this is another one of those gap fillers.
Gap filler.
This would take us to the very, very beginning of Road to No Man's Land. That's where this would take us.
2 years.
And man, there's some great stuff in here, but it's in the aftermath of the Batman Contagion Legacy. So, an era that has not been properly collected, honestly. There was one hardcover that came out a few years. It's probably about 5 years ago. What was it? Nights Out or something like that, with a K, of course.
Well, it didn't have an event to anchor it, so
Yeah.
True. That's true. So, isn't the turn of Donna Troy, Wonder Woman, in the Phil Jimenez Omnibus?
Yes, it is.
There we go.
Why didn't you tell me that? You should
The
have.
chat all came to that conclusion all at once. Me included. We all figured it out.
Okay. This makes me believe in the Contagion Legacy Omnibus. Me too, man. Me too. Night Out. That's what it was.
There's not a ton of 90s Batman left. I mean, we have to get to Nightfall. We need what's immediately after Nightfall. We need this. We need Contagion Legacy. And I think, is that all that's left in the 90s? I mean, it's not none, but it's enough that we could count it on our fingers at this point.
No, you're right. You're right. And this is a great era, man. Like, I love, when I had stopped reading comics, it was nice to see the people that were, like, the creators that were working on the books were still writing the books. Peter, is there a reason?
Yeah, that's me. That's me and my hotkeys.
Okay. There we go. I almost quoted Ghostbusters 2 for some reason. Ray, could you move out of the way, please? We'd like to shoot the monster. I don't know why. Okay. Any other
I thought
thoughts
you were
about this
saying-
era? Batman? Anybody? No? Am I the only one that voted for this? Okay, I guess so. I was born in 85. Guess how I feel about this era? Magic.
Did
51. Starman by James
Oh,
Robinson.
yeah.
Did all my votes just make it to this little clump of like 55 to 50, 45? But this is Starman by James Robinson, Volume 1, a proper omnibus. We've had them in compendium format, and of course, we've had them in these older omnis, is what they were called, but they were standard size. So, man, I love this story. The older I get, the more it means to me.
yeah.
Oh,
Good
it's so
stuff.
good. This was number 45 in our previous ranking and is now slipped into 51. And we can't blame Tom King's Batman for that. Well, maybe we can. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's on there staying strong despite the compendiums, which I think is interesting. You know, anytime anything on the poll was related to a compendium, I tried to make a comment about if the compendium seemed to send it up or down. And this one, with only dropping 6 spots, this could just be other books that people were excited about. It's not like it had a precipitous drop.
No.
Precipitous. I love that. Yes, a small reminder to hit that like button. Thank you so much for that, Josh.
Starman is not necessarily DC's top seller, of course, but it is one of the top books that like I feel like altered the trajectory of people's lives. I mean, you know, like one of my best friends in town. I swear he found this to be a life altering experience. So yeah, it means a lot to.
I thought this run was magic because of the collector connection that he started out with, that running the collection shop of all the odd things that I collected too, and boy was that a great hook it just ensnared me right away. I love this book.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Lars.
People in the comments are saying that, you know, an absolute Starman would also be fantastic. Yeah, this would look wonderful in the absolute format.
This book means so much to me that I talked about it during my dad's funeral. Like my connection to my dad, like especially the ending here. Oh man. Like, and since losing him, this hits on all kinds of different levels. So I would love to see this one day get a proper, bigger format.
Definitely.
Sorry, Crisis. Have you read this?
I have not actually. I've had the compendium in my cart on IST recently. Maybe it is time to finally pull the trigger on that one.
And what were you going to say, Chris? I'm sorry.
It was definitely one of the, because this is my younger years of collecting, but it was definitely one of the smartest written DC mainline books at that era. I mean, it was. I mean, I'm not trying to put it on the same level as Sandman, but that's how well it was written, in my opinion. It was on the level of Sandman.
Yeah, the characterization here is just superb. You don't necessarily read this for the driving plots, but the character work is truly exceptional.
Yeah, man. The Starman Omni being announced and canceled was my first experience with DC's legendary flakiness. Still bitter years later. They have come a long way. We haven't seen anything officially canceled unless there's a good reason, right? Like Batman by Neil Adams, I think was one. And then
that was for the better. Yeah.
Yeah, that we're going to get a better book out of that. If you like the original colors, of course. And what was the other one? The White Knight. And that was because they were still selling the standard edition of the White Knight Beyond. So
no,
we're still going to get those.
One has a lot more faith in the solicits than one did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's move on to number 50. Infinity by Roy Thomas. Man, I did not expect this to make it. This was 88 last year, and it's moved up to number 50. This is some classic stuff. Did we get two trades of this, Peter? Or did we get more than that?
Let me consult.
I think
I vividly know what happened. If you're talking about the previous collections,
the hardcovers.
They put out an overpriced hardcover of the early issues, and then they solicited I believe, staggeringly overpriced hardcover of, because Todd McFarlane. This is Todd McFarlane's early book. And then they withdrew that solicitation, I would assume, because it didn't sell. Now, maybe if it had been a more affordable format, that would have helped. So there was one overpriced hardcover, as far as I recall.
And it barely collected anything. It was mostly the intro to the series and then 4 issues of this series. So we're looking at a series that, aside from a few issues around Crisis on Infinite Earths, this is just uncollected.
It was one of those unforgivably rip-off titles.
This is the legacy characters of the JSA. Like, in relation to the JSA at the time of DC Comics, of course. Keep in mind, it was pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. No.
Now I need Lars to explain this series in Fortnite.
Oh, God. I think you need someone else to do that. No, but Roy Thomas, it was, fluent in the golden age. He was just like, it's time to introduce, their kids, their kids or their inheritors. And it was a very interesting series. And again, Todd McFarlane's art makes, I remember at the time, I had no idea this Todd McFarlane guy was going to become famous. And at the time I was reading the title, I was like, man, this Todd McFarlane guy really improves the art in this book. It's good stuff.
What's always fascinating to me about to me about this as somebody who wasn't a DC reader at that time and has gone back to try to understand it is, so this is on Earth 2 because it's the kids of the All-Star Squadron, who we think of as the JSA, but it's set in the modern day of Earth 2 at the same time as the time in the DC universe. But then because Crisis happens, they have to change the nature of some of this team and some of their origins because now there are no more Infinite Earths, and now they are part of DC's continuity, but not everybody that was in the original Earth 2 JSA makes it into the JSA in the merged post-Infinite Earths continuity because of what happens in Crisis on Infinite Earth. So this has got a very interesting pedigree, and it's interesting to see what happens to it as the series continues for like a solid 2 years after Crisis on Infinite Earths is over.
That was an amazing explanation. I don't think. Wow.
Yeah.
We'll have Jess explain it again, word for word, at the end of the show. See how much he remembered.
I mean,
but the thing that really excites me here is that this is a 1980s property from DC that doesn't have any obvious modern descendants. It's not like Infinity Inc. is big right now. I mean, some of these characters go on to be modern day JSA characters by way of Jeff Johns.
Sandman. Sandman,
yes. It is a weird precursor to Sandman of all things.
We should have put Sandman Universe, but then it wouldn't have made the top 60. So I guess it's just interesting to me because it shows that like there is a hunger from modern fans for this 80s material that just doesn't like lead to anything directly. It doesn't anchor a big crossover. It's like this is just a book that people have still an affinity and an interest for, and I think it's awesome to see it at number 50. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I do wish to invoke the writer of Sandman. It just shows how DC obsessed he was that he co-opted a couple of the characters here to bring them into the Sandman lore. And I mean, these weren't characters that really have a lot of widespread appeal, but they're direct imports. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but Gaiman was doing that right with the Bronze Age books, and then you had like
quite a lot. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. My first pick in both polls.
Okay,
Infinity Inc. That's great to hear that it made it.
It is great to hear.
Number 49, Suicide Squad by John Ostrander, Volume 2. We had a Volume 1 that was mapped to perfection. It was great. If you've never read it, I strongly suggest it. And now people are voting for Volume 2. In the intro, I think Ostrander said there would be a total of 3. And when people are like, oh man, but this is a waste of a vote. It might be to some people. But I'm gonna let Josh finish real quick. It might be, but some people want it out faster, so that's why they voted for it, right? Like they're like, hey, I want it now. I don't want to wait a year. Who knows? And this, showing the results to DC. Also, part of that is to show the demand for books like this.
Yeah, I wonder if this sank in the rankings a bit because people more so assumed that it's on its way. I bought Volume 1.
It ranked 160 last year, and it is
I misread that. Oh wait, no, Volume 1. Oh, Volume 1 was
Volume 1 was number 8.
Volume 1.
This went up.
No, I thought this was Volume. Okay, got it.
And if you've never read that Deadshot miniseries, oh my gosh, you're in for a treat. It is so good. It is so good. It's one of my favorite moments in Suicide Squad. But yeah, and adding the crossover with the Janus directive.
This was one of those where, to my annoyance, I bought the omnibus, even though I have the soft covers. I mean, I don't normally double dip like that, but I did here.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that too.
You guys, I think know this who you're one, to, right?
There's an unusual thing happening here where DC pretty much put out the Volume 1 omnibus and then also a DC Finest that have that material on top of each other. Yeah. Possibly just because they kind of feels like finally realized how much passion there is for Suicide Squad in Omnibus, which we never even had when we were doing the poll last year, and also Ostrander, who they've been actually reprinting stuff by. So it could be that this vote was suppressed a little bit by the idea that some people were like, well, I'll just get another Finest volume, that there's another entry on the poll where that obviously was the case. So it could be that this was suppressed by a series of things. People assuming there would be a Volume 2, people who might prefer it in Finest, but I still think it's telling to see it here that even as something that's maybe assumed as a sure thing that DC is going to do because Ostrander wrote in the intro it's going to be 3 volumes, people still spent a vote on it.
Yeah. One of the things that encouraged me to double dip was that the page count was not nuts. Because with a series like this, they could have made it 2 volumes and really cranked that up, but I thought the slimmer volumes worked a lot better.
some of my voting was influenced by the expectation that some of these things would work just as well as DC Finest.
Sure.
Thank you, Dana. That is a good way of looking at it. Ostrander seems to be getting a new wave of
Yeah, I
appreciation, and rightly
Very
so.
well
which
deserved.
Yeah.
leads to the next question. They haven't done a Martian Manhunter by Ostrander, right? No.
Not yet. No.
I'm hoping, because that Tom Mandrake artwork,
Mm.
man. Chris?
It definitely helps when you have James Gunn saying Ostrander was his influence on the movie. I mean, he's in the movie for a quick cameo, blink and you missed it, but he called out Ostrander a lot of times during that press tour that was his guiding light for his movie.
Yeah.
His introduction in the Omnibus it's a big eye opener to a lot of the things that inspired. Like, you could see some of the things that inspired his, not just Suicide Squad, but like his tones in his movies.
Mm-hmm. Well, Creature Commandos, if you've seen that, there's a lot of Ostrander in that DNA.
Yeah. Let's move on to number 48, and that is Robin, Tim Drake, Red Robin. Dang it, I swore I would not do that. By
And yet,
God, it's the dad in me, man. I can't help to make corny jokes. I do it all day long with my kids. Collecting the crossover with Batgirl and also including The Road Home, Red Robin 1, the Teen Titans 92. This might also, I was going to say, Gotham Shall Be Judged should be in there. But this has only been released in a series of 3 trade paperbacks, long out of print.
Oh, yeah, they're long gone.
Unlike Stephanie Brown, who got trades and then 2 fat trades, and then those 2 fat trades have been reprinted. This has only had 1 printing, and that's it. That's why they're super expensive. And it is a series that is loved for anybody that read it. Like, I don't think I've ever heard a negative thing about this series. It starts off by Chris Yost, who did, of course, X-Force and wrote like Thor, Ragnarok, and also Fabian Nicieza, co-creator of Deadpool. So
it's always wild to me
stuff.
because we so often on this channel, if anything has Yost's or Nicieza's name on it, we're very positive on it. And it's not just because we're fanboys. It's because they're 2 of the most consistent writers of the past 30 years, 40 years of comics at this point. Yeah. But it's funny because I don't feel as either of them are perceived as a name that would like sell an omnibus. You don't usually see them headlining as omnibuses. And like, I don't know about anybody else, but if I see Nicieza's name on an omnibus, yeah, I'm probably buying that. So I just,
my wife would agree.
Yeah, and it's just really interesting to me, and I hope, like Ostrander, and like to a degree right now DeMatteis, both at Marvel and DC, I hope that they cotton on to the fact that these 2 guys are massive fan favorites, and that hopefully the sales will support that if they start to collect some of their stuff again.
I would like to point out that there are 4 trades of this. Oh! So strike 1 on Omar.
Omar. Okay, well, that's strike 1 for Jess for calling me out on my own show. So I will take my strike. I'll wear it like a badge. All right. There was a good question here. Where's the compendium? When in the compendium series volumes will these be in? Not for a long time. You got to go through the entire Robin series, which will take about 3 more compendiums, and then this era, because this is towards the end of the Batman. It's before Flashpoint, but it's during the Grant Morrison era.
Well, I mean, I don't know this series, but I have to assume that part of why he is Red Robin is the outcome of that first arc of Grant Morrison's Batman when Damian arrives, right? And kicks the living bejesus out of him.
Yes, that is exactly why. A little more grown up, Tim Drake. And again, before the reboot in New 52. All right, let's move on to number 47. And that is Aquaman. Where is Gio? Is he watching? Yes. Rebirth Omnibus Volume 1 by Dan Abnett. Now, here's a character that has not gotten a lot of love in the past, but that Aquaman with Peter David, Peter David. It's an eye opener that there's a lot of want for that character. This was ranked 187 last year. It is now at 47. This is a big jump for this book. And this is collecting the last few issues, of course, of the New 52 era, and then kicking off the entirety of the Rebirth era. So it'll be a big chunker, but I'm in for it, man. This is Dan Abnett without Andy Lanning, of course. Did anybody
This
tag
run
team
is extraordinary. I mean, it's really, really good. And I think if you've read the Jeff Johns run from the beginning of New 52, that is separated from this from about 25 issues, which would probably go on like a Cullen Bunn Aquaman omnibus or an Aquaman and the Others omnibus. That said, I think if you've read the Jeff Johns one, this is an easy read. Like it builds very much on the status quo that Johns had set up. And it's just, I mean, that cover on there is, it's got Steven Sejic art for about fully a third of it. It's just really cool. And at one point has Aquaman like as an insurgent in his own kingdom. He's like deposed and he's kind of like his own rebellion. It's just a really cool book.
I can't agree any more than that. I actually agree with Peter on this one. I think it's very underrated. Plus, it's got beautiful artwork, and I think they knew they had something special with Sejic whenever they started releasing them in a bigger, like in a hardcover format. I want to say that after Green Arrow Rebirth Deluxe Edition, Aquaman Rebirth Deluxe Edition was in the catalog, and then it got pulled. Am I dreaming that, or did that happen?
I think you.
Does anybody remember?
I mean, everything else got a deluxe edition for the most part. I mean, this was, if you're looking the next one down from the Trinity, this should have been next.
Yeah, but Chris, he's always been a struggle to sell on hardcover. And I feel like it, just with this Peter David omnibus, they're like, okay, it can be done. There was a deluxe edition just of the part of the run that had this cover, starting with issue number 25, which was called Underworld. And I think that was mostly a deluxe edition because at that time, Sejic was a big seller because he had like Sunstone and all of that stuff. Like if you saw Sejic's name and art on something, you probably bought it and he had huge fans. But that's the only deluxe, I believe.
Yeah, and that's when they knew that they had something right. Yeah,
okay. I particularly like with this, they get the team up out of the way in the beginning of the arc, and then let Aquaman do what Aquaman does best and stay out of the team.
Yeah, the deluxes never came, like the volume 1. I think it was just in the catalog is where I remember seeing it, but I think they pulled it. Very cool to see this come up in top 50.
As much as I talk trash that I only would buy Wonder Woman omnibuses, I maybe would buy this. It's that good and that rereadable.
Okay. Oh yeah, Birds of Prey by Chuck Dixon.
Okay.
This is the first run of Birds of Prey. This is it's the same series that, of course, Gail Simone did when she took over the run. But this is the stuff that was done by Chuck Dixon. This series has been collected in trade paperback twice, and both times they did not finish it in trade paperback.
No.
They stopped, I think, at volume 3 the second time and volume 2 the first time because it was mapped a little different. But this stuff would benefit from an omnibus because it hasn't been collected like fully. It's got Ted Cord. It is interesting because when I think of Birds of Prey, I always think, okay, it is Oracle, Black Canary, and Huntress. But Huntress didn't really show up until the Gail Simone era. It's Ted Cord. No, it is actually one of the big characters in this book. And, Catwoman showing up, of course. So, yeah, this is some great stuff.
Yeah, it's Gail who really makes Huntress sing.
But what I think a lot of people forget or just don't realize because in their mind, there's kind of like a Mandela effect about this, is that Birds of Prey had this run up through all of these one-shots, the Manhunt miniseries before it became like the ongoing Birds of Prey. And so sometimes I think people look at this and they're like, this could be done in one omnibus. What are you talking about? But they forget that there's all that lead up stuff that really builds book by book from that first Black Canary Oracle Birds of Prey one-shot. And what's really interesting about this is there was some question on that Gail Simone book if it would collect any of those 12 issues that are in between, which I know they were written by one of them, the run's written by Hernandez and the other one's written by, is it Terry Moore? It's like two indie people write it in the middle. And of course the Gail Simone book just starts cleanly with Gail Simone. So DC is actually really good at collecting one-off deluxe editions of like 12 issue runs that don't quite fit into an omnibus. So it could be that we get one omnibus of this run, which would be right around 60 issues, and that they put a deluxe edition out of those 12 issues that fit between this and Gail Simone.
This is a really good question. Is this a better starting point off than Simone's run? I will say this.
I'm just gonna say right now, absolutely not. But
I love this. Damn it, Lars, I was getting there. I was giving them a slow burn. You're like, no. Anyway, I'm going to say why. Not just Gail Simone, but Ed Benes on artwork. So it got a lot of fanboys to check out what the hell Birds of Prey even was. You put that guy on a cover with all that Huntress cake, people are going to buy it. Right? I think early artwork here, I mean, you have Gary freaking Frank drawing a lot of these early issues of Birds of Prey. But
Yeah,
as
it
far
has
as
a really good art pedigree throughout the majority of this run.
Butch Guice, who else was there? The guy that did a lot of the Ted Cord issues. Rick Leonardi. There's somebody else. But anyway, it's a different starting point. I think it's a lot more fun when Gail's run takes over because it is like action adventure and it's a team already. Whereas this is like, all right, who can we use on this team? There's a bunch of one shots that don't really have anything to do with each other, and then they bring. I'm sorry. yeah, that's that era.
I just think Gail Simone writing Birds of Prey is something truly special. And if it was just like, 5 issues or 10 issues before her run, then I might go, yeah, go ahead and read those. But this is a lot of material before you get to Gail Simone. And I just think her run knocks. I'm not a huge Birds of Prey aficionado, but I thoroughly love her run. But this is fine, but it's not Gail Simone.
Well, and I think it just goes to show, like, DC pulling a smart one instead of starting at the start when the Gale run works just fine on its own as a book. It kind of goes with the mapping ethos of this poll of, like, only put a volume 2, quote unquote, on the poll if the volume 2 could exist without the volume 1. And it turns out the Gail Simone run works great without the volume 1. And if anything, it's a good advertisement for them to do more of it so people can read what came first. So this could be, Lars, in your favorite naming convention, this could be called Birds of Prey, Prelude to Road to Gail Simone.
Well,
Prelude to
I'm
that
sure the
Huntress
creators
cake.
would love hearing that. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's right. Greg Land is the other guy I was thinking about.
I thought he doesn't start until Simone's run.
No, he starts in this run.
Okay.
Because remember, there's the crossover with Nightwing, and that's
yes,
Nightwing after Scott McDaniel left.
Land draws through issue 14, and then he comes back with issue 56.
I suppose you guys
Somewhere.
prefer Miller to Ellis on Authority. Absolutely not, to quote my friend Lars, but I don't speak for everybody. No!
What made you make that jump? That's a big
All right, let's move it along.
Well, just quickly. I mean, when the Gail Simone run gets going, it's unmissable. This stuff is perfectly fine. I'm not actually, it's very enjoyable meat and potato stuff. There is an issue in here that really sang with me that somehow Oracle is she in the Watchtower? She's somewhere that's being invaded and no one is around to help her. And she has to physically fight these people off. And of course, her legs don't work. And I was really impressed by the way that he established that she is still a kick-ass fighter, even with, this obvious problem that she can't walk. So, yeah, it was really good stuff. But start with the Simone run.
Okay.
No, it's fine. No, but that's not the question that was asked.
Wait, Tigereyes can tie break. Tigereyes. Should people read Chuck Tits and Birds of Prey?
After they read Simone's.
Wow,
there you go.
there it is.
The man
Okay,
has
can we
spoken.
move on now to the tie vote?
Yes.
Of Green Lantern by Grant
Oh,
Morrison and Liam
okay.
Sharp. I'm surprised this hasn't
Okay.
been done already.
Mm.
Of
It
this
was, yeah.
25? Oh, because you included Black Stars in here. There's not a lot, but I mean, we've seen slimmer Omnis, right?
Well, I have
28 issues. It's plenty.
I have the slimmer hardcover releases, and I would actually buy an omnibus of this. It would be nice to have it all together. Grant in their Substack or something telegraphed that this maybe wasn't the best received. So maybe that's the reason they haven't got around to making an omnibus of it. I thought it was really strong, and I would gladly buy it.
As somebody who often finds Grant Morrison's writing incredibly weird and hard to understand, as has been reflected in my commentary across this channel for years, I F with this run in a big way. To me, like it's the right brand of weird, and it's a weird that you can follow, and the weird is very connected to, like, is willpower the same thing as order? Like, can you call Green Lantern a quote-unquote space cop? And it starts out very much like, yes, he's the space cop, and then Morrison just dissects that layer by layer as it goes on to say, like, actually, maybe it takes more willpower to exist in chaos. Maybe it takes more willpower to cause chaos than order. And it's just like a total mind-bending journey. And of course, Liam Sharp, one of my favorite artists. I'm so pleased to see this one jump up the ranking as people get more and more excited for it.
I mean,
now Morrison is an acquired taste, much like, well, when Morrison was on Batman, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is too weird for me," and I'm like, "You have plenty of Batman to read if you don't enjoy Grant Morrison." It's the same thing kind of here. It might not be for everybody, but you've got plenty of Green Lantern to read if you don't enjoy this. I would love to see an omnibus of it,
especially when you got Liam Sharp on art. I mean, like, as you said, like you want to get crazy sci-fi at that point. Liam Sharp's your person, even with his own personal, what he's doing with his independent book right now. I mean, that's what he does. That's when he shines, is the fantasy, the sci-fi. He really, I mean, give him a big canvas. This is for the art alone. This needs to be an oversized.
It's a cornucopia of weird ideas, and that's what you want from Green Lantern. Now, like a lot of Green Lantern works, I always feel like I'm not hearing 25% of the conversation. But
That's how I feel about a lot of Grant Morrison books.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally understand. Like I'm not convinced I have ever properly understood Invisibles, but I love it.
That's a good quote for the back of the book where they reprinted. As I feel the same.
But no, I've got this thing. I've got the, like I say, standard hardcovers. I would gladly buy this again.
I say you can go back and read Birds of Prey by Chuck Dixon before reading Green Lantern by Grant Morrison. So I'm going to move on to number 44 because they were tied. So Green Arrow by Judd Winnick, baby. Okay. Yes, this is the follow-up to the Archer's Quest. And this is the stuff that will have the rest of the Judd Winnick era. Oh my gosh, and it is so good. Plus you added Connor Hawke. So there's enough room for another one, right? Because you have Green Arrow Black Canary series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, this is so good. This is probably, it's up there for me. This is probably my second favorite run of Green Arrow, up there with Mike Grell. Such a great series. Very underrated. Available in trade paperbacks that are long gone, unfortunately. So those have never been reprinted. I think out of Judd Winnick's run, the only thing that's been reprinted is just the stuff that you find in the omnibus now. That's it. Thoughts on this one, anybody? Does anybody else love it as much as I did? I love the supporting cast. That's what makes this such a great series.
Just a note that people in the chat are rightfully saying, would this just be Archer's Quest Volume 2? I think when we were first putting together the poll was before Archer's Quest dropped, and there were walkthroughs of it on YouTube, and we didn't know that it had a Volume 1 on the spine. So yeah, this probably would be actually called Archer's Quest Volume 2.
Okay. So yeah, anybody else read it? Did anybody else love Judd Winnick on this?
I mean, from the beginning of Archer's Quest through this whole run, it is, like you said, like the character development, building from the return of Ollie. They get through that. He starts going out. It becomes the family book. This is about the surrounding characters with Ollie and how exactly, as the joke is, like, okay, he's Batman Part 2. You know, he's got his own family. He's got his, you know, the rogues may not be as strong, but the family is what make Green Arrow a solid book to read, even in this day and age.
I like that. Yeah, big fan of like Connor and Mia and Black Canary in here. I love the supporting cast in this book. And he still reminds you that Ollie can be a bit of a bastard from time to time, too.
Judd Winnick may be having a slight revival, and that is a lot of the more bigger names get collected, and then you start casting as you're going, what else is around? It's like, oh, there's an awful lot of Judd Winnick stuff that could be collected. And yeah, he's very reliable. Very, very reliable.
It's a great writer. I really like him. Number 43, Jonah Hex, the classic.
Yeah, I this.
This has had enough. There was a Jonah Hex omnibus that was in the catalog, and then it was canceled, and they brought out the Jonah Hex oversized hardcover. and this would collect the older material. This was number 39 in the previous ranking, so it slipped to 43. But this is collecting some classic stuff, still following the comics code. I always find westerns and war comics after the comics code to be such an interesting read to see, like, just how they get shot, where they get shot, as opposed to pre-comics code. But even collecting the Shadows West 1 through 3 series, Volume 1. Man, this
isn't Weird Western Tales 10 when it starts?
Weird
Perhaps.
Western Tales.
It's 12 to 14. I thought it was 10 through 14.
Could be a typo. I will look into it.
I need to
1 through
remind
92, man, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I need to remind Jess that this is a announcement show, not a mapping show. Is what I said earlier.
Hey man, if Jess can have a rare opportunity to correct me on a mapping, I'm into it.
It is a huge amount of material. I mean, it's so easy to forget just how popular westerns are. When people were complaining that there was superhero saturation of Hollywood, I think that was overstated. But you go back decades, and something like 40% of Hollywood's output was westerns. It was a staggering amount. So yeah, this would take some volumes, but
I loved all this, starting with Weird Western Tales. I loved all this Jonah Hex stuff when I was growing up. It was so good and so out there and so interesting. It was really well done.
Project Viking, this is not the New 52, so.
So Jess, I think what you're thinking of there, and you are correct. I don't know. I think the mistake is actually that it says it would collect All-Star Western 2 through 11. It probably should only collect All-Star Western 10 and 11 because Jonah Hex has his first appearance in it when it's still called All-Star Western. Then it becomes Weird Western Tales with issue number 12 because Jonah Hex is weird and he becomes the featured star of that title.
Is it because of that eye? Is it really because of that eye?
So Jess, you're okay. You don't need
We'll
to
award points for that one. Jess.
You're okay. You're good, buddy. You don't need to do a walk of shame.
So just here's the thing, looking at this cover, and I'm speaking as Crisis here. I don't know a lot about Jonah Hex, but what I do know is modern Jonah Hex with like the messed up face and he's old and grizzled. The guy in this cover, is that Jonah Hex? He looks way too handsome to be Jonah Hex. Can you please give us a primer on that?
My take on that is you don't find dudes attractive if they have scars.
But is he like younger? Is this like
Omar,
early?
come on.
Is this earlier in his continuity, or was he just drawn differently?
it's his stunt double.
I think that without being able to see it closer, it could just be somebody else in the series on the cover.
Oh, maybe that's not him. Okay.
Because that does not look like Jonah Hex to me.
You know what it is? He's just got a really nice head of hair in a lot of these 70s
He does.
covers that I'm looking at. I think
True.
that's what's confusing me.
I like this one in chat. He asked for the photograph to catch his good side. That's good.
Right, he is turning the side away. That could be the key to the cover.
Yeah.
I am actually too young for a lot of these comics. They came out.
Lies.
But hold on. But I do recall, again, that gear shift to the Hex series from the mid-'80s when they decided to take
future
him
one.
and make him some sort of Mad Max style character. It was about as shocking a transition as Punk Storm. The funny thing is, when they made that gear shift, I thought to myself, "Oh, that's weird. It'll never last." And then it ran 18 issues. So
Future Hex was awful.
yeah.
Number 4. Oh my gosh.
oh,
Legion of Superheroes
Wow.
coming in at 41.
I love it. Okay.
Wow.
Now, okay.
Running neck and neck with Green Lantern at this
This
point.
was look at this. Oh, because of Crisis error. I'm sorry, an error. Sorry, I didn't mean to call it.
Now,
this was 418. What was the? Sorry, hold on, Lars. What was
Last
the error?
year, there was a lot of drama, and Lars was on the show live to report, live from the scene. Because we had mapped this so that this volume would have Jerry Conway material and Levitt's material, and I left Conway's name in the title, and I didn't put Levitt's in the title. And Lars is like, no Legion fan thinks of it like that, Peter! And so this year, Lars I didn't want to spoil this in the special thanks, because I knew that we'd be talking a few Legion books. Lars hand-edited every title, every book, every map, every parentheses in all of the Legion listings on this year's poll, and it clearly has paid off because they did incredibly well, and to the tune of the size and the fervor of their fandom. So Lars, over to you.
Well, yeah, it was
emails. They were beautifully mapped, Lars.
Well, thank you. Well, it was kind of funny because Peter asked me to help with the mapping, and I sat down at this Sunday joint where I had brunch. And I thought, oh, well, this will take 10 minutes.
With a Pinot Noir?
Yes, I have the Pinot Noir at 8 in the morning.
5 o'clock somewhere.
And then 2 hours later, I was still working on this. Okay, so
welcome to our world.
Yeah.
Go
okay.
on.
Great to see it pulling where it is. It would be an awesome collection. Now, as we pointed out, most of this has been collected before. Most of this appeared in the Great Darkness Saga Deluxe and the Curse Deluxe. There are a few add-ons here. Blue Ribbon Digest is one, World's Finest, DC Comics event, and then also the continuation Tales of the Legion of Superheroes, which continued on from issue 314. Those have never been collected. And we had some great debate about, do we put them here? Do we put them at the beginning of the 80s run? I advocated for putting them here. I looked at how they'd mapped New Teen Titans, because New Teen Titans did the same thing, and this seemed the best place to put it. So it's actually incredible that this ranked as high as it did, considering a lot of this has been collected before.
Not only collected before, but very recently reprinted in oversized format, which I think we saw comments in the suggestions. People get hot about Legion. I mean, in a way, it is the X-Men of DC because people get heated.
Crazy.
In the official map or the unofficial map on Crushing Crisis, I mentioned that Lars recommended putting Tales in this one, and people were like, no, it came out at the same time as the 84 series.
Wow.
You should put it. But I do think it works here because it's a sweetener. It's like, yeah, you did buy these two in oversized hardcover already, and like it includes Tales, which continues the numbering of the series. But it really could go in either place. Folks should not get hung up on that.
No.
It would get collected.
Well, don't act like you're not going to buy it again. Come on.
Well,
come on, we know.
Mars,
we know.
Mars.
But no, I mean, they are right. Yes, it came out simultaneous with the Baxter series, but the two were not really contingent on one another. And again, I looked at how New Teen Titans did it, and the way New Teen Titans mapped it felt like it made sense. So that's what tipped it for me.
These comments are killing me. Okay, this is one of my favorites. Some assisted living facility saw the increase in computer use. Ouch. That's so cold.
Wow.
All right, move.
Well, I hope that bodes well for the other two volumes, which, did not have anywhere near the amount of double dipping here. Oh, okay.
Justice League of America, Bronze Age Omnibus Volume 4. This would be a huge gap filler. We had
huge gap
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And I think some of those made it in our reprint poll that Dustin and his team looked at. And now you all voted for a Volume 4. And a gap filler because this would be leading it directly into the Detroit era. And that takes you into Crisis, and then we get Justice League International. And man, we're getting a lot of this. Justice League's getting a lot of love. So this is number 47. It moved up a little bit this year.
Yeah. One of the biggest gap fillers. And, I'm not a Justice League from the beginning fan. I really don't care about the Silver Age. I would buy this because there's George Perez material in here. There's some really, foundational.
Jim Aparo, right?
Yes, Jim Aparo's art is in here. It's a really strong run. It's a really, really strong run.
Oh, now the question really becomes, would DC do a 50-issue book here? That would be much bigger than we've seen them do for any of their main lines of titles in the Bronze Age and in the early 80s. So I think that comment you just brought up, Omar, is a good one. There is other stuff that could go in here if it was broken into two. You wouldn't hold out a hope for that if it was going to squeeze into one, because 50 would be big. But there are some miniseries, some other side appearances that actually would make a lot of sense as the DC world sort of gets more linked in the beginning of the 80s, that if this was a Volume 4 and a Volume 5, we would probably include.
Frankly, I'm a little astonished they've not put this out before now. I hope there's not some restoration issues with the files, but it's a really strong run.
I need to stop and just say I'm kind of taken back a little bit at the range in just choices this year so far. Like they're all over the place. I'm loving it. There's New 52 stuff. There's classic stuff in here. I know we don't have any Golden Age or no. Did we have a Silver Age book? already, Peter?
No silver.
Yeah.
I think
No.
Jonah Hex would have been earliest.
But again, the
He's a
Silver Age has
bronze.
been a lot better omnibized. So,
Well, I mean, we still need them, right?
oh yeah, sure. But yeah, there can't be a lot of Silver Age left on the table, I would think.
So it was a tie between Legion and Justice League Bronze. Wow.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to number 40, which is another tie.
Fascinating.
This is the biggest shock on the poll for me. It wasn't the one that was
Rebels?
ranked the lowest previously, but of
135.
all the books to jump 100 spots, and I would buy this. I never would have guessed it's Legion.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
DC's watching and saying, man, you like some Legion here.
this
Yeah.
is a huge book.
I would assume that's what's pulling up the vote. It's a great spin-off series. Barry Kitson's art is spectacular. It got weird. The series got weird.
It got weird.
What the hell is this? Yes.
It's the 90s, you know.
But so I need an explainer because I don't explain this one well. It says Legion, but it's it's set in the modern day and it's got Lobo in it. What is this,
so-
Lars?
Enough said. That's all
Yeah,
you need.
no,
That's a
okay.
selling point. Lobo. There you go.
It's a spin-off. I think I'm right in saying, did this spin out of Invasion, for God's sakes? Yeah, I think it did. After Invasion, they decided to do a Legion spin-off series, and this is basically some of the Legion's ancestors or their predecessors. You have one of the original. I think this is Vrildox, who's kind of the adopted son of the original Brainiac. You have one of Block's ancestors in here. You have one of Shadowlass's ancestors in here. You have a Durlin character wandering around. I won't get into him. And then you have like just random characters thrown in. Garen Beck is one of them. He was just thrown in as comic relief. He was kind of the foil. I don't think he had any powers for quite a while. Yeah. And then they threw Lobo in, and I think it's because Keith Giffen did some of the storytelling on this for a while.
Yeah.
And Lobo didn't have. They probably used Lobo because Lobo was available. That's how Lobo wound up in here. Yeah, it's an odd series. It really, and I say that in a good way. It's a very, very odd series. This is my.
That's
Yeah,
a T-shirt.
well,
idea,
thank you, Dan. This might be a good candidate for a compendium, if nothing else.
Shh, we're talking about Omnis, dude. What are you doing?
No, I know.
You had everybody saying "Long live Lars." Now it's like compendiums for
No, I too am surprised this is
Traitor.
getting that much support.
Lars
Yeah,
in his 1,000 email accounts.
that's true.
All right, what the
Very undercollected. Barely anything.
Well,
from
and
these
also,
two
by the way,
series.
it had the weird quirk
yeah.
that the title would change every year. It started out as Legion 89, then it became Legion 90, then it became Legion 91, then it became Legion.
There were two issues in here that I thought could have been included in that Lobo compendium. That
Yeah.
would have
quite
added to
probably,
it.
yeah.
Was that like
okay.
a yearbook thing? I'm trying to remember because I was there for this. Why did they keep changing the year? Was it meant to be like the class of 90? The class of 91?
I honestly have no idea.
I don't.
It was
I mean,
because
again-
it was following the years that they were released, right?
It
Well,
helped
yeah,
people
but
know
why?
what order they were in.
Yeah, it was the publication year. It wasn't anything else.
Okay.
I mean, it was a Keith Giffen book, and that just made it strange. And again, Lobo tended to follow Keith around because Lobo was in Justice League. Why? Because Keith Giffen was writing it.
Yeah, Lobo
Tigereyes,
was
do you have any
cockroach, you
intel
can't
to
kill
share on this one?
I never read a single issue.
No, we're all befuddled.
Lars,
Fuddled.
Lars and Jess are in heaven right now with all this Legion love. God bless. I haven't even seen Matter Eater Lad yet. No, he was on the cover, wasn't he? He was on the cover of one of the Omnis. All right.
And Bouncing Boy.
Hold on, I actually just saw a really smart comment. Hold on, I lost it already. Somebody just said, "Oh, here." It was to differentiate it that it wasn't the future.
No, yeah,
It was happening now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like I say, there weren't many titles that changed on a yearly basis. So
Yeah. Okay, I got there. Thank you so much for that, Owls in the
Can we
Barn.
move on to the next Legion book, please?
Great drag name. Welcome to the
Next
stage, Owls in a Barn.
Stop! I was going. Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps by Vendetti. This is a big surprise to me too, because we're getting Green Lanterns by Robert Vendetti 1 and 2, which is almost unprecedented to see a release of a volume 1 and 2 in the same catalog and coming out almost. I think one's in January and one's in October, but
Wild.
people really love it. And I got to interview him, and I didn't know this. He had never read Green Lantern before writing the character. He was like, yeah, they, I pitched for it because they saw my work in, I think it was Exo Man War.
Hell yes, his Exo Man War is
it was like-
outstanding.
Yeah.
They really dug it, and I read a lot of Green Lantern to kind of catch up. I read Blackest Night, I read Jeff Johns' run, and dude, I was surprised because it did not feel like he had not. I thought it was a fan writing the stories. It was solid. So,
Yep.
yeah, this is a good one. And speaking of Exo Man War, my buddy Ron here from Alien Books is showing up in the chat. They're the ones that are publishing all those Valiant comics right now. And I'm going to get this super chat really quick. Late to catching up, but I think a crossover people forget for Red Robin mapping is world's finest with Chris Kent. Write that down, Peter. Write that down.
I already asked for more intel. I'm on the scene.
Thank you so much. Had to skim through 5 hours of live stream to catch up. Sheesh, no, you didn't. We've only been on for an hour and a half, if that. Hour and 25 minutes. We got everybody's attention except for Lars. He just walked away. We're not talking about Legion.
I'm sorry, my air conditioning is not keeping up here. I had to strip. So,
Yikes. This is the Rebirth era.
Yeah.
Hal Jordan. So we had Green Lantern, and then we had Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern.
Well, and what's really interesting that I think people forget if they weren't reading Rebirth at the time is there were two titles. The main title was Green Lanterns, plural, and that's where Jessica Cruz and Boz were. And then this was like all of the characters that were already well known and loved, and both of those ran in parallel. That other one was also on the poll, but like this has got all the characters that kind of like everybody already knows. Look at it's got the big four right there on the cover of this particular issue 13.
Oh, you mean Kilowog, Rissa, and Hal, and Kyle Rayner? That's what you meant, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. When you think the top four Green Lanterns, that's who I always think of. Actually,
I just think that most people think of two of these four. If you're like, who are the two? I feel like usually people are going to say
Gnort,
probably Hal or Kyle and John or Guy. I feel like usually is the combination.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Am I wrong?
They really do represent the best of humanity, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Two white guys, a Latino, and a black guy. Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
All right.
I didn't even know he was Latino until just recently. New Valiant Omni coming to Kickstarter. Look at that.
There are your bookshelves. You can sign up to the pre-launch now, and so you get notified when it starts.
Yes, dozens of Gnort fans. Okay, let's move on.
All right.
Number 37, Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes. 110 last year, and now coming in at number 37. This is huge, man. This could collect any significant guest appearances from that period, though his traits never. No, they didn't. But I guess you could show his first appearance too, right? From Infinite Crisis.
Yeah.
Number, what was that? 4 or 3?
Yeah, because I remember, wasn't he on with? He was like 3 people on that cover too.
Yeah, because there was the Jim Lee cover that had him. But no, I'm glad. This is I want to say, was this Keith's last great creation?
Possibly.
Did he create any other character after this? I want to say this might be his last. I
mean, he did do
an addition to the DC universe, if you will.
He did do Doom Patrol after this, but he pretty much stuck to established characters in that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
I still have this issue.
That's a significant jump. There was, of course, the Blue Beetle movie, but that was 2 years ago, so I don't know if that's.
He's just such a great character. I love. There was an issue in here that was written in it was all in Spanish, and I was like, wow, they're doing an issue all in Spanish. Of course, they translate. Yes, sir. Us Mexicans really won this time. But what was cool is they did do the translations towards the end of the book. They did translate the issue. But yeah, I really liked the character. I thought he was a great character. So I'm glad to see him so high. Keith Giffen at first, and who else? T. Kroll, was it JT Kroll that ended up writing some stories?
I think so.
And I cannot remember who else. There was another writer too. Yo, this is so true. American Guyver. Yes, sir. Guyver. This Blue Beetle run is a lot of fun. Yeah, his first appearance was in Infinite Crisis number. I'm sure. Was it 3? Did we ever establish that? Anybody? Chat?
I'm working on it.
Lars?
It was indeed number 3.
Oh, thank you, Lars. Okay. Number 37, Batman the 1980s Omnibus. What about this? Oh, not Jess. Anybody but Jess? No, this is great for Jess. He doesn't remember. Jess, like
I was out of comics at this point. It's the 80s.
This is perfect for you, dude.
I spent my comic money on other stuff.
Yeah.
Good jumping on point then.
Don't get me demonetized again.
I'm not saying anything more than that, man.
Yeah. Cocaine's very expensive.
This is
Hey.
Lars, golly, with the freaking spoilers. This has moved up 10 spots since last year. And this would end with a pair of Batman by Doug Minch volumes. Now, you got my attention there. It might not start exactly in January of 1980. Who mapped this one then, Peter?
One of you, me or Brand or Tigereyes last year. I cannot say. We're just the collective at this point. For all of these books, people are like, well, they wouldn't just jump to bronze. It's like DC absolutely would. We've seen them jump ahead to bronze. We've seen them, and so there's and we've seen them with the Detroit era omnibus jump ahead into late pre-crisis 80s. And so we put this on the poll last year to go, would people actually want to jump ahead of Bronze Batman? And a lot of people showed interest in it. So this year the drum started being like, well, why wouldn't you break this out more? There's clear creator runs in here. Well, 2 reasons. A, because we're really trying not to map ahead in a book that's part of an obvious line, although there is a very clear break where Doug Munch starts writing both titles. But B, because those Doug Munch titles have started to be collected backwards into the Batman Red Skies DC Finest that's been solicited for later this year. So we said, you know what?
Is the word.
Yeah, because they're backing up from Crisis. So we said, you know what? Let's just leave it as a 90s, 80s option. And this is one of those runs that's very under-collected. Some of the backup stories have been collected. Some of the individual creator runs have been collected. But this is one where we don't have Batman and Tech in reading order in one book in a continuous way, in a way that an omnibus could do it.
So Toll is asking, is the Dark Detective Cape Crusader trade paperbacks material?
That is post-Crisis.
Yeah, this is before. This is the early 80s, whereas that stuff is 86, 87. Yeah. So this is the early stuff that, like Peter said, has not been collected really.
Not coherently. Yeah.
Let's move on to number 36. Poison Ivy. This is another one that surprised me. It's a current run that's still ongoing, and I know Peter's rule was, hey, let's just, if it's got more than 24 issues, sure. At least I think that's his rule. I kind of listen to 5% of what he says. So this was
the speed I talk, then you're still getting a lot of content.
114 in our reprint poll. By the way, all the covers were chosen by Crisis himself. So there was no debate. There was no poll between the 6 of us to choose a cover. As a matter of fact, this is the first time Lars, Chris, and Jess are seeing this list with you all.
Yeah. Are you talking trash on this amazing Poison Ivy cover?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that you chose all the covers. No, not that one, but
advocating responsibility.
Should have been a David Nakayama cover.
Come on. Anyway, there wasn't a. Maybe next year we'll do a. Hey guys, between the 6 of you, why don't you vote on the cover? Anyway, but that should be behind the scenes. I'm sorry, I brought it to everybody's attention. My point was, Peter comes and he did a magnificent job for the most part.
The dirty laundry.
You're welcome to put the 12 hours in with me to put the presentation together next year.
Okay.
We can do it live on Zoom.
We're doing this right now. All right.
This book is freaking fantastic. I love this book. I got several copies signed by David Nakayama and G. Willow Wilson. I just can't say enough about this series.
Who is does anybody off the top of their head remember the artist on the book?
Often it is. I almost just said the colorist. It's Arf Prianto is the colorist.
Because the art in this.
Oh, Marcio Takara is the artist.
Oh my gosh.
But the colors are a huge part of that in this book.
I almost did not. I'll be honest. I did not vote for this because I wanted in an absolute format because
yeah.
it is
It'd be really
that
nice.
good of art. Like it is absolutely stunning. And yeah, no, that's a great cover, Peter. I'm with you. I was just
Well, and I
saying.
think what's interesting about this one is because I think I caught up on it for Jess's channel. I think Jess, or me, I feel like Jess told me I had to finally read it, and then we then bullied Freddie into reading it subsequently. There's a couple of DC books right now that really had a very clean break at issue 24, where they obviously had a first 2 years of plot, and then the plot that will come after that. This is one of those titles. If it goes past issue 40, I think it could be that it could be 2 volumes. And if it ends before 40, we don't know, it could. Then it would be obviously just 1 volume. But I think the interesting thing here is that what preceding in material could get collected in here, because Ivy did have 2 miniseries in the Rebirth era that have never been oversized before. They don't have a lot to do with this run, but they could kick off this book, especially if it was going to be split into 2, or if they just wanted to pad it out a little bit. Also, a lot of the status quo of this comes directly out of James Tynion's Batman. I don't know that you would want to cram in a lot of James Tynion's Batman, but there might be like an issue or 2 that you would want here for context. Although I do think it works just fine to pick it up. But I just remember Jess like reading the first arc and being like, oh, so this is a spin-off. Like, because originally it was only going to be a 6-issue limited series, and then it's just so wildly popular that it got extended to 12, and then it got extended as an ongoing, and now it's, you know, one of DC's books with pretty high numbering.
Again, good writing and good art. You have to a combo you can't ignore.
And
it's a difficult.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm taking like 10 Jenny Prasan covers to Heroes Con to have her sign. The covers she did for Poison Ivy are awesome.
Beautiful.
She's so great.
Yeah, Bart wanted me to read this so bad. She bought volumes 1 and 2 for my birthday last year and did an old reader, new reader with us. Like, that's how much she wanted me to read it. And I really made it in my top 10 reads last year. It was excellent. And I will say that it's difficult to write a character that's a villain like Poison Ivy, right? Like somebody that murders people, and you still have to have compassion for her and care for her. It's not an easy task. And I think G. Willow was just, I mean, we've talked about the art a lot because it deserves it. But G. Willow Wilson, that task is not an easy task to accomplish, and she did it. Okay, let's not, we don't need to start a movement. Like that. That's ridiculous.
No one said that.
In addition to her being a villain, she wasn't created to support her own title. I mean, she doesn't come prepackaged with a supporting cast or whatever. But G. Willow Wilson, I haven't read this, but she's always
Lars.
I know, no, but okay, but I've marked it down here on a receipt from my local comic book store to read it on DC Infinite, so it's okay. But she's always interesting. She's always. I've never read anything from her that's not interesting, if not outright, hugely successful.
Lars, this book is in the 20% of my collection that I've read.
Okay, good.
How important
and remembers.
And I remember.
You remember it.
That's saying a lot. The way that Peter delivered Lars, like Lars had some triggering memories of his parents. All right, let's move on to number 35. Batman by Chip Zdarsky.
We're in the modern era right now of the poll. It's the modern era.
Who will be returning to the channel to talk to Melanie and I on June 23rd.
But mostly Melanie, let's be honest.
Okay, let's be honest. I don't know. What am I going to ask him? What's Canada like this time of year? Anyway, Batman by Chip Zdarsky, number 53 last year. Oh, flipping those numbers to number 35 this time around. This will be collecting his entire run plus the night in there in the urban legend stories. And his run is done because now came in Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb to do Hush Tua. But this is the stuff that I'm surprised it got voted this high.
Down.
A very, very modern run. But then again, they've been doing a killer job of printing modern runs in Omni formats, like the James Tynion run and Mariko Tamaki. So it doesn't surprise me that people are voting for this stuff.
I love that. I know Melanie and I are both on the love train of this. I read it, and it was one of those ones where I got on the internet. I'm like, everybody's digging this, right? And then people were complaining. I'm like, you're as bad as Spider-Man fans. I just think this is great. The art was great. The ideas were great. Batman fell from space. It was awesome.
I love this run. This is the one Marcelo and I expect to see Marcelo in here hating it in 30 seconds. We disagree heavily on this, but I love Zdarsky's Batman. I really dig it. And you're welcome for this omnibus, which is going to happen because I have all the standard hardcovers.
Yeah, where's every time?
Right.
So I read what was it? The first arc, Failsafe, and I was behind on my Batman reading because I was working on another reading order at the time. Who's on the cover with Batman? Is that Tim?
It's Tim.
Yeah, it looks like
Best Robin ever.
Looks like he's coming out of his body like a chest burster here.
The superior detective. All right. Let's move on.
I wasn't a fan of Gotham War, but yeah, Failsafe is where it grabbed me again.
Yeah, Gotham War, the wheels came off a little bit. I'm not saying every issue is great, but there was a lot of good stuff in this.
You guys ready?
Yeah, let's roll.
Number 34, another Batman title, Nightfall Aftermath. Wearing my Nightfall shirt for a reason. And this is the stuff by Doug Mensch and Kelly Jones, which has been collected.
Yeah.
Not fully, but has been collected in a series of standard size hardcovers.
Hardcovers, yeah.
And there's some solid stories in here.
Yeah.
I really like this era of Batman. It's Bruce Wayne back as Batman. Sorry, spoilers. But what are you gonna do? Plus, I love the fact that you add this. Was this the one I mapped? I'm pretty sure I mapped this one. I love patting myself on the back for mapping things. So yeah, this had to be me. Good job, Omar.
This era of Batman is a little weird to collect, only in that it's predicated by what was being published together. Because like Batman, Shadow the Bat, Detective Comics, the Bat Office, one of those titles to be very, very different. So you've got Chuck Dixon on Detective Comics doing an action-driven series. You got Alan Grant and Shadow the Bat being very strange. And then again, Mensch and Jones are on the main Batman title. So I guess it's just you like Batman comics of this period because it's a pretty wide range of stuff.
Well, it's one of those things we finally got what we asked for, right? Which was, to me, let's get Kelly Jones on Batman because he's done the amazing covers on Nightfall. And then Doug Mensch was like, oh, Kelly Jones is the artist? Well, I'm going to write some dark crap. And that's exactly where these stories went. They went dark. And I love them, man.
And then there was all the vampire stories.
The Blood Rain, right?
Blood Rain.
All that stuff from Elseworlds. Absolutely. But, man, this is such a great freaking stories like that. Long out of print, unfortunately, in the way that they were collected. Number 38 last year, moved up 4 slots this year. Jess, you're a huge fan of Batman Nightfall. What did you think of this era after Nightfall was over?
No, we've lost Jess.
Jess has retreated to a monastery.
He was like, I'm not talking about Batman.
And then somehow Palpatine returned.
You're quoting your favorite Star Wars movie. Okay. We're going to move on to number 33. Green Lantern Emerald Dawn.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay.
Really interesting.
So this is the beginning of Green Lantern post-Crisis on Infinite Earths after everything was rebooted, like Crisis said earlier, into one Earth. This is the stuff that takes place before we got Kyle Rayner. It's the stuff before Emerald, Twilight. It is... it introduces us again to the character of Hal Jordan with a new origin. It is a retconned origin.
Yeah.
Because I think there was drunk driving, right, in this one?
Yeah.
That they added that element in there. Guy Gardner's in here, and then, of course, you added... No, you did not add Mosaic. Interesting. Okay.
No, that was we had a John Stewart omnibus for that. But it could...
Right.
So here's the thing. The Green Lantern line became a whole line in 1992. So this had a couple of years head start on that, where this was the main Green Lantern book, and then it launched in 1990, and there were 2 years of this by itself. And then in 1992, the line exploded. They added a Guy Gardner book. They added Quarterly. They added Mosaic, and also Dark Stars. So this could take like a Justice League approach and kind of combine them all into one line, in which case this would be longer than just 2 volumes, or this could just stay Hal focused, which I think works because it kind of gets us to the transition between Hal and Kyle and tells that complete story, in which case I think 1 would be a push here because we're talking about way over 60 issues. I think this is 2 books.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
there was a weird sense at the time that DC was kind of playing catch up with Green Lantern because, of course, coming out of Crisis, they revamped Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, and then it was some years later they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should have revamped Green Lantern while we were at it. So this was kind of presented as a new era. Of course, we're obliged to say it's got a lot of writing by Gerard Jones in there, so DC is going to have to figure out their comfort level with publishing that sort of stuff. But yeah, I would think it's a pretty fondly remembered era.
Well, let's not forget he's not the only creator in this book.
No,
right?
certainly
There are
not. No.
tons of creators, including, well, he was James Owsley at the time.
James
right?
Owsley, yeah, Christopher Priest, and
Christopher Priest, right?
Yeah.
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 All right, let's move on to number 32. Yes, we can all use. Oh, yes! Sorry, Matthias, I got excited about this one.
Yeah.
This slipped a little, but that's okay. It's still up there. Batgirl Stephanie Brown. This is a great, great freaking era. And I mentioned earlier that it had 3 different printings of those trade paperbacks. So obviously there is a want for this character to be. Oh my God, are Warren and I agreeing on something?
Great choice of cover, Peter. Great.
Oh, Art Germ, yeah. Art Germ. This is the first time I remember seeing Art Germ, right? What are these covers?
Wiping the blood off her face with a smile. It's such a boss cover.
But yeah, it's not a long run, so I would include all the crossover issues, especially with Red Robin in there too. Lee Garbett on artwork, who's a phenomenal artist.
Yeah, she deserves her flowers. It's time to get her in a collector's edition like this.
I've got a custom one. So Dustin Wynn does some of the artwork in there. Nicola Scott. I'm a huge fan of this era, so this is a big yes from me.
And for people that don't know it, I've not read all of it, but I feel like I've read half the series back when I was doing read-throughs on my channel many years ago. And what struck me was this was a very secret identity Batgirl, which I don't think had ever been a super focus for Batgirl before. She's usually I mean, I guess when Barbara was Batgirl in the Bronze Age, but not so much for Cass. But like, this is a Batgirl who's trying to have some normalcy in her life while she's also being Batgirl. So it almost, in a way, kind of has vibes of what later would be seen in Miss Marvel by G. Willow Wilson. I think if you don't know this character and you're like, what's different about this Batgirl? To me, that's the vibe that I got, of course, reading it after I had already read Miss Marvel. I don't know, would you agree with that? That it's got like a little bit more of like a secret identity home life aspect to it than most Batgirl had in the past?
I can see that, yeah. Because you had to do something a little different with her, right? Because we had Cassie for a long time. And Stephanie was spoiler. And then she had a little bit of a short run as Robin. But I think after Reborn is when they were like, okay, we got this character we're not really doing anything with. How about we make her Batgirl? So I think you're right. I think there's a little bit of that in these particular stories.
It gave people a better impression about Stephanie post-War Games. She never, that whole Robin stint, she didn't get a good shot at that. And so Batgirl put her in a much different light, and I think a lot more fans are more favorable on her now than they were when she was Robin.
Yeah. Is she wiping away blood, or is it just fruit punch? Because we always just say in Buffy, all the vampires, they don't actually have blood.
I knew you were going to go to Fruit Punch Mouth.
It's all Fruit Punch Mouth, yeah.
Her dad's a super villain. What kind of normal has she ever had? I mean, she dated Robin for a while, too. There was the pregnant... Never mind. Never mind. Let's move on to number 31. Batman Detective Comics by Ram V. This was 95 last year and collected fully 1062 to 1089 and all of the backups from his run. And it was an epilogue of Two-Face 1 through 6. Oh, definitely collect that in here. You know that
it's not by him; it's by Christian Ward, but it very much spins out of the backups. Well, the thing is, a lot of runs have like in the Philip Kennedy Johnson Action Comics run, the backups, there's a lot of arguments like, no, that should be a separate trade or that should be a separate book. Here, the backups were very tightly coordinated by Ram V with different authors, a lot of the time Dan Waters, to like tell hidden parts of the main story that then would get woven into the main story in the next issue. So the backups actually are critical, and they'd have to appear in release order here for this run to make any sense at all, because they were referenced constantly in the run. I think, you know, it's interesting for this to make such a leap and hopscotch over the Zdarsky one, but I think Ram V is just really, really well regarded, and people love his writing, and a lot of people really are the kind of people who like hold on for a complete Ram V run to be over, because they want to like get all of it. So I think there's probably a lot of people who are holding out on this for it to be done, and it turned out a perfect omnibus size. And honestly, DC, as Omar has mentioned, has struck a really good balance the past 4 or 5 years of like whipping these Batman books out as soon as they're done into omnibus, in the same way Marvel does with events. And you know, I think there's a lot of fans who just expect the next Batman omnibus to show up on the shelf.
I need to say something really, really quick, and I swear this is not calling anyone out, so I'm not even going to say the name. But this comment right here, this is kind of a waste of a vote. Ram V has already said it's getting an omnibus. Peter Tomasi told me in 2016 we were getting a Green Lantern Corps omnibus. He told the internet in 2019 we were going to get a Green Lantern Corps omnibus. It's never a wasted vote.
Scott Snyder told me in 2017 we were going to get a Batman omnibus that year. 2017.
In 2019, Jess and I told Mark Buckingham Fables was getting an absolute edition.
That's right.
And now it's public domain. So
that's not the way it works anyway. We're moving on.
Well, and also I think when a creator has insider news that they're going to do an omnibus, that could be that the DC Collected Editions department has asked them what their mapping might be. Like, it could be an initial conversation. It doesn't mean it's on the schedule necessarily. It doesn't mean they have a release date. It's still got to go through marketing. The art has to be prepared. It's got to, you know, be laid out. It's got to hit the solicits. So just because Ramsey knows
it's coming.
Yeah, right. It means it's here. It's practically here. It's going to be here in February. So I do think that there's still value in voting. I don't think we've ever taken a book off just because a creator has said that they're expecting an omnibus. It's got to be solicited.
But to your point, again, that it's made the list, it's at 31. Yes, he said it's coming. This is sending a message to DC. We really want it to come. We really want it to get here. I agree. There's not a waste of vote. It again lets DC know. Make it happen, please.
Yeah, make Round V come for us, DC.
All right. Let's move on to number 30. Cool.
The top half.
Wonder Woman.
Ooh.
By Greg Rucka. This is the Rebirth
This
era.
was good. Yeah.
So strong.
Speaking of
So
Liam
strong.
Sharp and Nicola Scott, both firing on all cylinders, man. They were so good together. Wonder Woman, Rebirth, and Wonder Woman 1 through 25. Peter and I fought last year. I wanted to add James Robinson, and he said, no.
It's a whole extra run. There's a whole arc between here and there.
It could fit into it. Anyway, it
it's like 30 more issues.
It's really not. You're just being 17 issues or something.
No.
It absolutely is.
So would they put this as part of Volume 2 for Rucka then? If they've already...
Did they put in Volume 1 on that spine? Have we seen the spine yet?
I think it just said Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
know.
I reviewed it on the channel, and I can't remember the spine.
Do you have it in with arm's reach? Can you grab it?
Yeah, I do. There is no Volume 1. It's just straight up Rucka. So yeah, they could if they wanted to.
But I think just calling it Wonder Woman the Rebirth on that's fine.
No, Rebirth on this, of course. Yeah. Plus James Robinson. Oh, sorry, that slip of the tongue. Okay. But yes, beautiful artwork, Nicole Scott and Liam Sharp. Retelling again. I know it gets old. I get it. But it's a really good retelling of the origin. It's a retcon of the origin. And it's done in such a cool way because it's like borrowing elements from George Perez's run, borrowing a couple things that they did in the New 52 and other origins of Wonder Woman that have been before. And I just heard that Mark Waid retcon something into his history of the DC universe about Wonder Woman just recently. It was solicited as Volume 1, then they dropped that part. Thank you, Always an Instigator.
Would it be a history of the DC Universe without a retcon? I mean, let's be honest.
That is the history of the DC.
That is true.
And I love DC. I'm just saying, would it be?
Yeah. This was really good. I read it at the library. Obviously, I went in there with a fine Merlot, and
Of course.
Pinot? Not the Pinot?
You guys, I don't know if you guys watch Always Sunny, but I see like Lars is Danny DeVito's character drinking wine out of a can the entire day to keep it hidden.
Okay, well, I didn't have the wine, but I did read this at the library, and yeah, it was excellent stuff.
I love it. I absolutely love this run. Jess, do you agree? Do you like this run, dude?
Oh, I love this run. Love, love, love. One of the best Rebirth titles.
Now, I like his pre-Infinite Crisis run a little better, but this is still some great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting how Rucka doesn't stay on titles all that long, because this is not that long. His Punisher run is not that long. His Wolverine run is not that long. His first Wonder Woman run got curtailed. That's the one he wanted to finish. But,
because he didn't do he wanted to do a follow-up to Sacrifice, and he never got
he
to
did.
do it.
But maybe there's something to be said for leave them wanting more. Curiously, I just sucked it up. Years ago, I sold off my Queen and Country, and I just got on eBay and I rebought a set of them. So yeah,
Deluxe editions of Queen and Country.
Yeah,
confirmed.
Yeah, I was cheap and bought the soft covers, but yeah.
I'm just kidding, man. Okay, let's move on to number 29, Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that happens before the New 52, which is being collected in an omnibus format with All-Star Western. And this was, if I'm not mistaken, in the catalog too, right? At one time? And then they canceled it?
Yes. I think
Okay.
it was.
Or maybe I'm making some of this stuff up.
No, it wasn't.
Briefly solicited and then canceled. Jonah
Yeah,
Hex
it was
All-Star Western. Well, that's the
Okay.
This
the New
needs to
52
happen.
was in the catalog and then got disappeared.
That's
I thought.
right. It was. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
recently solicited. Yeah.
It has to be the cover. I mean, this just has to be.
Oh, that cover's killer, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's just so good. And here, I'm just saying, Jess, he's not aging as well here as we saw in his 1970s stuff.
It's only a face a mother could love.
Yeah. And, people are saying, well, 1 to 70, you will notice that when things are volume 1s, it says would begin to collect above that box instead of would likely collect. This would obviously need 2 volumes.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just wrinkling in the desert heat.
All these trades are out of print, and that is a crime because Palmiotti and Gray just have this character down perfectly, and it's one of my favorite. I love all things Jonah Hex, and this run and the All-Star Western run together are such great reads.
This would need the OGN.
Oh, is there a graphic novel that fits in with this?
Yeah, the No Way Back.
Oh, I will add that to the list.
If you watch my top 20 most wanted DC Omnis, like I know you do every year, Peter, I'm happy. I always add that in there. All right, we are going to move on to number 28. The Fury of Firestorm, the Nuclear Man. I just said that there wasn't a lot of this character collected. And
No, there isn't.
People came out. They were like, it went from 50 to number 28. And we still don't have a lot of this stuff collected.
No,
Suicide Squad teased us with some of the Firestorm issues in there in Omni format. So it was nice to see this in an omnibus format. This is a great run.
This is one of the most uncollected runs of the entire poll.
Really
I mean,
is.
there's not a lot of stuff on the poll where you can look through and be like, wow, there's only 6 issues of this that have ever been in a trade. This is one. There's no showcases of it. There was no cheap trades. This, not to put us off the omnibuses, it feels like this is achievable to start doing in DC Finest, perhaps. Because I would imagine there's probably a lot of, not because I'm trying to say I wouldn't want an omnibus, I actually love Firestorm. I imagine there's a lot of restoration work to be done since this has never been in collected edition before.
Yeah.
It might ease the load if it went into a standard size book first before it went into an omnibus. But of this, I really looked it up last night because I was curious. They did originally do a collection of those first 5 issues of Firestorm the Nuclear Man from 1978, but then the actual body of this has not been collected other than crossovers, as Omar intimated, with Suicide Squad, and also when it briefly intersects with Crisis. And this extends past Crisis. It's one of the few DC books, there weren't a ton, that was changed its name, but it was already at a high number, and it continued its numbering, which Green Lantern did at the time as well. But many books rebooted after Crisis, and this did not.
Well, that softcover collection you mentioned is even more annoying, because what it did was it collected the Firestorm minis, or the first 5 issues, fine. Then it collected the Flash backup stories, except it didn't collect all of them. It only collected the Flash backup stories drawn by George Perez, but the story kept going. The story kept going, and so even the one collection we've gotten, just effectively the story about the hyena just stops about halfway through.
Well, DC has changed, Lars. They're not going to do that to us again.
No, let's hope not. I think you're right. This is kind of begging for a DC Finest line. Yeah, DC's collection, their commitment to Firestorm has always been a bit lackluster, and I've never quite figured out why.
But this is another one. We've had a string of these 80s books that have kind of been forgotten a little bit over time that did really well on the poll, and it's like the hunger is there. Whether it's for an omnibus, a compendium, a finest, I think we saw that with that amazing Dr. Fate book that came out this year that was like not quite a compendium, but more or less a compendium because it was huge, the DeMatteis one. Like, people are rabid for some of this stuff now that all of DC's continuity feels very much in play again recently. It feels the past matters more, and people now want to read it.
I think people might want this series. Every Firestorm revival has crumpled pretty quickly. In fact, entertainingly, so I was at my local comic book store, and I've gotten a taste for singles again recently. It's just very bizarre. And I was going through, I was buying some single issues of Firestorm, and they go, "Oh, you like this?" And then they brought out this enormous stack of Firestorm comics for me, and they go, "Here, just take those." I go, "Why?" They go, "Nobody wants them." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great."
You're not helping the case for the omnibus right now.
What are you doing, Lars?
I know.
Take our Firestorm.
I think there might be affection for this series, though. I think this series will probably sell. And again, DC, try a DC Finest. DC, just
Omar,
try to see what happens.
Before you hit next, I need you to get ready for the level of excitement for the next book. Okay, are you ready? Like, really get ready.
Who needs to get ready?
Everybody. The whole world.
All right. I am ready to go.
Are you ready? Making its debut in the top 60.
Okay, let's do it. Wonder Woman by William Nestor Loebs and Mike Deodato. Oh man, hell yes! This is the stuff that follows up George Perez's run. It is 90s Wonder Woman. It is the introduction of Artemis, and I'm so glad Peter agrees to put Artemis Requiem in there. Of course, it's got beautiful, beautiful covers by Brian Bolland, and it fits, like I said, right after Perez and before John Byrne takes over the book, and it was so good. William Nestor Loebs is one of these writers that doesn't get a lot of praise and rightly deserves it. I love his stuff that he was doing here on Flash, and even his Thor stuff that also not a lot of people enjoy, but this stuff was great, man. This is during the time when DC was really doubling down on, like, hey, we need to change these characters up. We need to modernize them. We need to kill them and replace them with another character, or we need to do away with their powers and replace them with other characters. Yeah, it's great. I love this stuff.
Now, this has been collected entirely in paperback, so it's not like we've got nothing. Times. But now that we have the John Byrne Wonder Woman omnibus coming on the other side of this is an obvious gap, which I think is what catapulted it 70 spots to be where it is now, because it's a hole in the shelf, and it's just all the covers by Brian Bolland, I mean, are just absolutely breathtaking. For the last half of it, Mike Deodato joins, and this was really what was the star-making turn for Deodato. Yeah. He was known and he had done work, but this was really what caused him to blow up and be kind of headhunted for first by Marvel to relaunch Thor with Warren Ellis, and then later to be at Image and do Glory. And this is one of my favorite comic runs of all time, so I'm very, very excited. I would love to see it in omnibus.
And early Ed Benes, who also, I think, worked with Mike Deodato in the Deodato studio. Ed Benes on that Artemis Requiem miniseries.
Yeah. Yes, he is the artist on Requiem.
Yeah. So glad, man. First time in the top 60, number 27, coming in strong. And yes, Jill Thompson doing the artwork in here as well. We are
just so much great artwork that would look gorgeous, oversized. You know, after so many issues of Perez not only writing but doing some of the art, but then some of the people that he had cycle in on art with him were incredible. It's like this definitely keeps up the art pedigree. And again, I feel like Messner Loebs is one of those ones that's finally kind of getting his flowers. Like we saw the Flash Mr. Loebs book come out, that was really well received. He's another one of these ones that was like a very reliable writer in the early 90s, and people are now cutting it onto it because stuff's actually getting collected.
And man, yeah, it's so good. I'm so glad it made it this high. Let me get to this one comment really quick. Omar, can you please remind us, did you send the top 60 DC? The top 60? Yes, I did. And Dustin Kitchens and his team have now seen it.
I've seen Dustin in the chat, actually. So he's watching.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, so they're, you know, like I always say, it's the same thing with Marvel. Like whatever they decide to do with the list, it is up to them. But they seem really excited about some of the things that you all voted for. So thank you all so much for taking the time to vote and for being here in the chat.
As far as we know, they're going to use the stairwell method. They're going to take Omar's list and cut them out into slips of paper, hurl them to the bottom of a stairwell, and whichever slips make it to the bottom first, those are going to print.
Everything but Legion of Superheroes.
Is that how you made all the top 10 lists in Wizard back in the day,
Absolutely.
Lars?
Absolutely.
All right.
A very big stairwell. So
Tigereyes, if memory serves, are you also a fan of this run?
I'm glad you guys like it.
Oh, that was wow. That was cold.
I love this run. I've got no apologies. All right, number 26. Booster Gold by Jeff Johns, Keith Giffen, and Dan Jurgens. So this is the stuff after Infinite Crisis, and there's a beautiful, beautiful blue and gold story in here that I never get enough of. And then, of course, after Jeff Johns leaves, it becomes the Dan Jurgens and Keith Giffen show, and they wrap it up. And of course, Dan Jurgens, the guy that created the character. So this is such a great run. It's been available in trade paperbacks that went out of print, standard size hardcovers that went out of print, and DC recently reprinted them in a thicker trade paperback. So yeah, it's very, very cool, man. I love this stuff. And let me get... Oh, the Batgirl story is so good, dude. I'm glad somebody mentioned that. Yo, two things. Rain and Hell trade paperback, please. Sandman season 2 in 17 days. There's no trailer. For reference, the Dead Boy Detectives got theirs 21 days before. Thank you for that, Silhouetted Animator. My fifth choice, long overdue. Put Heroes in Crisis in here and make people... We're having such a good conversation, too. I love this stuff. I don't know if you all like it as much as I do, but I absolutely love Jeff Johns' Booster Gold. And then to give it to the original creator, too, to write like his stories. Oh, man, it's amazing.
I think wasn't
great artwork.
Wasn't the first booster series, was that done? It was done as 2 hardcovers, I think.
Yeah, standard size
hardcovers. I think those are now out of print and going for a lot of money. An omnibus of those wouldn't be terrible either.
Yeah, and I would definitely 100% add Time Master's Vanishing Point in there because that really wraps up some of the series, some of those loose ends, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay, next, number 25. Zatanna, the modern omnibus. Look at this.
This is a shocker. Look at it climbing from 169 to number 25.
This was a huge climb. So this is the stuff that will not only have the Paul Dini stuff, but will also have the one-shots and other appearances where she played a big important role, such as the Paul Dini Batman Detective Comics, but Books of Magic, and then Everyday Magic was just beautiful. Spectre, and then the Hawkman issues. So this was this a brand mapping?
I want to say it must be because it has the thoroughness of a Brand XK mapping.
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue left behind in this. I mean, obvious ones, right? But it's just way too many to collect. But no, it's greatly mapped.
Well, also, it's like a lot of a lot of people would be like, well, we mostly just want the Denny series, so like put the Zatanna 2010 in it and then get that Detective Comic stuff too as a prelude. But there's just a great opportunity, even if you don't include every one of these books in there. Maybe you don't include the Books of Magic issues, since that's kind of like in the liminal space at the edge of DC continuity. But it's the chance to just grab that the Zatanna special, her mini series 1 through 4, Everyday Magic, and just get it all into one place. And DC has shown a little bit of a willingness to do this kind of a book where they like compile stuff. And Zatanna's, I think the only thing working against this is that she's become such a popular multimedia character. She's got a webtoons book. She's got several YA graphic novels. Now, whenever there's a YA graphic novel that does anything with magic, she's always in it as one of the supporting characters. The question might be like, well, is she popular enough in Omnibus, which is a premium format that all of those people may or may not buy? And I think her jumping to 25 shows that there's some people out there who are very excited at the idea of getting a hardcover that has all of this material in it.
Yeah, I mean, I bought they just recently reprinted the Paul Denis stuff, and I bought a copy, even though, like, that series ends prematurely. I mean, it's pretty great, but not entirely satisfying because it ends so abruptly. But yeah, I'd probably buy this. They might as well include the Seven Soldiers miniseries, by the way, because it will never make any sense whether it's included with Seven Soldiers or separate from it. So
what? Are you kidding me? No, the Seven Soldiers is great.
No. That's not what I said. It is great. It doesn't always make a lot of sense, but it is great. I own it.
I beg to differ. I think that's pretty standard Morrison compared to all the other crazy things they've been doing.
Yeah, yes, but now that's a sliding scale of like for a Morrison comic.
All right, let's get to the top 24, and please don't forget to smash that like button. Thank you all for being here. All right, 24, Hellblazer, John Constantine or Constantine, Volume 4. This is the Paul Jenkins era of Hellblazer, and they've been doing a lot of really cool stuff with Hellblazer, because at one point I wanted Hellblazer all in the way that they had done the trade paperbacks, the big thick trades, everything in reading order, all 300 issues, all the specials. But instead what they decided to do was let's start with Garth Ennis, which to a lot of us, I include myself in there, is probably the greatest Hellblazer comics ever. Now, everybody has their favorites. That just happens to be mine. After that, they went back and did the Jamie Delano, and they did 2 volumes of that map it directly with the Garth Ennis omnibus. And this is the stuff that follows up after Ennis. So it's got issues 85 through 128. And then, of course, thank you. You wrote it. Issues 129 through 131 are in the Garth Ennis book. So putting in issues 132 to 133. Yeah, and that's the thing. You could break Hellblazer up by creators. You could do things like Mike Carey's run and Brian Azzarello. So it's really cool.
Yeah, for better or worse, they've gotten themselves locked into the creator format, which I think you can do fine. You could actually publish most of it that way. And if you have to do a compendium or a little roundup volume at the end, you could do that. It's okay.
And nice that Constantine and Zatanna are beside each other.
Aww, how cute.
Yes.
It was adorable. Not on purpose. Yeah, I love this. And I have been hoping for this for so many years that I passed on the thick trade paperbacks many times, and I think some of those are now.
I know.
Well, the paper quality there was not great, so.
But at least they finished it.
Yeah,
it's one of the most impressive paperback lines that Marvel or DC has ever done, aside from Epic Collections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that paper stock was not made to last, really. So.
All right, we'll move on to number 23. Batman by Tom King, Volume 2.
Interesting.
So this was number 20 last year. Keep in mind, number 1 last year was Batman by Tom King, Volume 1.
Again, there might be some assumption there that Volume 2 is coming out. Showing.
But it's crazy that this, is still in the top 60, even after the release of Batman by Tom King, Volume. I know it's not out yet. It's been solicited. But it's just crazy that people still want it that bad. That's nuts. Like, and I remember last year, number 1 by a mile, like, was Batman by Tom King. It was like, nope, not even close.
Except for, there was another one that was close, but we'll get into that.
Okay. But yes, he said it would take 3 Omnis. Is that the way you got this map? Yeah, you didn't put Catwoman, Batman in
This
there.
would be a lot for volume 2.
Yeah. I'm
Well,
not
no,
gonna
this
complain,
doesn't even
but-
have his Batman Catwoman stories in there.
Oh yeah, you need those 12.
It would need 3 volumes, yeah. And I think he himself said there would be 3.
Absolutely, you need that follow-up series. Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
I love
let's
Tommy.
keep going.
There we go.
There he is.
Sorry.
More Batman, Post-Crisis Omnibus Volume 1. This is another one of my picks.
Thanks.
I have been asking years for this. We're finally getting it with that DC Finest. We finally got it, and then the pre-stuff that has never been collected.
Does this have something to do with Batman Year 2?
You're damn right it does, because that is that Todd McFarlane right there. Batman with a gun. Look at that cover.
Oh,
I could not praise
can you
Crisis
pick
enough.
him out?
All of his strikes have been taken and removed from Crisis because he chose this as the cover right here.
Oh, my
Man,
goodness.
Now, I have to point out, this has an unusual drop, especially for a Batman book, and I'll tell you why. Because pretty much the
It
full
sucks.
contents of what would be the volume 1 of this post-crisis line is right here. DC put it finally on our shelves this year, and it's not like that it's never been collected before, because
you
it's
hold
in
that up?
those
Peter, can you
Caped
hold those
Crusader.
up
It was
again?
in the Caped Crusader and Dark Knight Detective books previously, but those books segregated Detective Comics from Batman. These 2 DC Finest, which are both pretty hefty books,
They
put
are.
all of this in release order. So even though this would clearly have to get through a lot of material, it's got 80 issues in both of the titles to get through. So we're talking about probably 4 to 5 omnibuses. In terms of what would go in a first omnibus, we actually have it in hand. So even this is one of the actually relatively few books that suffered a little bit because it's hit DC Finest or Compendium. Many of the others examples on the polls actually didn't suffer at all.
Yes, James. I agree
But-
with you.
But that means they've got the mapping. So
Yeah.
With
Makes
those
it
DC
easier.
Finest trade paperbacks go to the giveaway pile. I already have some DC Finest in the giveaway pile because I forgot I bought them with the Omnis, like my Suicide Squad. So yes, absolutely they will.
Oh,
Yeah, this is one of my votes. I love this era. But oh my gosh, in oversized format, absolutely yes. I already have Cape Crusader and Dark Knight Detective trades. I am getting the DC Finest, and I will buy this. I love it, man. Maybe Alan Grant, dude, Norm Grayfogle, Mike W. Barr, Alan Davis, Tom McFarlane. Yeah, this is stuff of my childhood. Love it.
Mm.
Frank Miller, David Mazzucchelli. Oh man, forget it.
Mm.
All right, let's move it along here.
Mhm.
Jim Aparo, definitive Batman artist for me. 21, the New Teen Titans by Marv Wolfman, Volume
Wow.
1.
Goodness me. Okay.
So, this is something that also surprised me that it's still here in the top 60. People really love this era. This would be the Tom Grumet stuff. Nice choice on cover, by the way. Big fan of Grumet. And this is the continuation of Teen Titans by Marv Wolfman, but just renumbering it to a volume 1 because it's the 1988 series instead of continuing it with a volume 6, which technically was in the catalog, but it got ended up being canceled.
I think we had some chit chat about this, and I recommended we should just stop pretending that Volume 6 existed because the mapping was not great. You would want to start to map the continuation this way, I would think.
And the contents of that volume 6, as it says in the box in the bottom, was separately on the poll as Teen Titans Spotlight, because
Yeah.
that is actually what was going to be in that volume 6. Last year, we had something called volume 6 on the poll, and to Lars's great disgust, he could not ascertain if we meant that it would have the Spotlight material or if it would have this New Titans material. And so we split it out. Marv Wolfman writes, I think, all but one issue of this, so there's every reason you would
crazy.
continue to brand it with his name. And he writes all of Teen Titans. So a lot of people ask, why isn't there a Teen Titans book? But because there's really no reason you would put it in a separate omnibus. I think you would just continue the Marv Wolfman line and wrap all of the Marv Wolfman Titans into it because his name is going to sell it.
It's a bit up and down. Titans Hunt was really good. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And this is the Tom Grumet era,
And Tom Grumet was really strong too.
who is a phenomenal artist.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh man, on everything that he worked on. Superboy, Superman, what was the other book? Robin. And yeah,
Robin.
this.
Yeah.
All right.
I know. I'm trying to work it out. Thank
Oh,
you.
dude! If you need to go on and go, Jess. We got 20 books to talk about.
I have to know what's in the top 5.
I'll text you, man.
Not the same. Not the same.
Number 20,
Into the
Superman
top 20, baby, with a bang.
Superman, the Triangle Era, Volume 3. Everybody said, "Screw it, let the double dipping begin."
Yeah.
And
That's what
here
I'm
it
talking
comes.
about.
Because I mean, we are there, right? Marvel's done it with X-Men comics. We know that double dipping is going to occur, especially since we saw the mapping of Volume 2 of the Triangle Years. So if you just want the event of Death and Return of Superman, then get the omnibus, like I've done so many times over so many years in so many different formats. But this is the stuff that will go into the post-death, so it's the Reign of Superman era, and then stuff that's never been collected.
Previously 125. That's a huge jump.
I love Reign of Superman.
Right, I think people forget that there's a lot of good in there. There's a lot of good in Funeral for a Friend. Reign of Superman had some great moments, man. I'm also a fan.
That Ron Trope issue with him talking about Cyborg Superman, that's one of my favorites of the era.
So good. And then when we finally get his return, right? Issue 500, I think, is a great issue of Adventures of Superman. You know, because there's that connection between him and his dad, who just had a heart attack, losing his son, and then finding out about like Kryptonian death isn't really the same as human death. It's pretty cool. I'm a fan of this stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, nice choice for cover there, Pete. I like that.
Pete.
No.
How's it going, Pete?
Denied.
Hey,
Strike 2.
I removed the strikes. We're back on them.
It's on you.
Peter, I want
Number
you to,
19.
I only use Christian names, so it's okay.
Oh,
Wow. Okay.
series so great.
Peter, you love this series. World's Finest by Mark Waid. Dan Mora, Mark Waid. Got
Brilliant.
it up for an omnibus already. This is such a
Brilliant.
great run. It's been available in trade and in standard size hardcovers. And, oh, man. Yeah.
So good.
Beautiful artwork by Dan Mora.
This is a
And
good book.
Now, some people, again, much like Poison Ivy, and I tickled that we'd be seeing this later. A lot of people are saying, why wouldn't you just say issue 1 and on? Why would you even offer it on the poll? Because much like Poison Ivy, there is a very specific set of arcs that kind of happened by issue number 24, and a lot of them were setting up things that would go into Absolute Power, but also it just really closes off by there, and there's also World's Finest Teen Titans 1 through 6. So now, if this ends by around issue 40, it could maybe be 1 book, but I actually really think it's 2, and that's because this also crosses over with Justice League Unlimited for the We Are Yesterday crossover, and Wade is also doing right now with Chris Samney, Batman and Robin Year 1, which is basically like a bonus arc of this book. Superman even does show up once or twice. So, like, I think all of that would probably want to be collected together. And at that point, if this runs past issue 40, which we're real close to happening, we're then talking about over 50 issues of a pretty easy seller of a Mark Waid name on a book. So would this be volume 1 of 2? Would it be all in one? Kind of depends on how far past issue 40 it gets, but it's starting to look like it would have to be 2 volumes. Yeah, and if Morris said it's going past 50, it's 2.
I'm in for that. Yes. All right. Number 18. Spectre. I've mapped this one too. Good job.
Wow.
Spectre by Hal Jordan.
Fascinating.
Spectre Hal Jordan by J.M. DeMatteis.
My God.
That is a surprise that it made it this high. It's great though, man. J.M. DeMatteis plus Ryan Sook. And it is this weird era when Hal Jordan was the Spectre. So
How
if
has
you've
this
read
been collected before, Omar?
It hasn't.
There-
I mean, we got Day of Judgment collected. That's been a trade paperback.
but that's it.
That's it. It's never been collected.
I thought so.
Yeah. I mean, Spectre's finally getting his due, right? We're getting the Ostrander Spectre finally.
Yeah.
And yeah, this one's never been collected. This would be love this stuff.
Oh my God.
is having this moment where a lot of his stuff that has never been collected on both sides, the big two, are finally getting their time to shine. So.
Yeah.
This is
And I
great.
really like your additions, Peter.
Probably was you.
Yeah,
Because this is like your pet book.
Yeah, this was one of them. I love this book, man. Very underrated, and yeah, J.M. DeMatteis is one of those writers I don't like. I think we've talked about before on the show. Like, it's just I see his name, and I know I'm in for a great read. So
I tend to agree because Hal Jordan as the Spectre kind of smelled of desperation. But if J.M. is writing it, I'm like, well, it's probably really good.
yeah, it is, man. So like. Yeah, I'm with you, right? Because they didn't know what to do with Hal. We had Kyle Rayner.
No.
Hal did the whole Parallax thing. Then we had Final Night. They're like, what are we going to do with him? Oh, let's make him the Spectre. Cool. All right. Moving on to number 17. Nightwing by Chuck Dixon. You all don't care if it's available in a compendium.
Nope.
You want an omnibus.
All
I
right.
like the way you people think. Look at that. So this has been it has been collected in compendium format. There are 2 compendiums. A third will probably come out to wrap up that end. Doesn't mean that if they do this, they're gonna ditch the compendium format. But yeah, this is this is another one of those books that means something to me. Just because at the time that I read it, and I love this run. Scott McDaniel on artwork. Oh, dude, and Scott McDaniel just kind of like evolving even more so through this run. Now, by the time you get to like issues 10 and 11, man, I love it. Now, of course, I understand he's not for everybody, but I love his artwork. Even in Fall from Grace, some of those early Fall from Grace Daredevil issues. Am I the only one that likes this run that much?
No, this guy
Okay.
right here.
All right, there we
I
go.
love it. This is my era of Nightwing. This is, I mean, people have comments on the art. I don't care. This art really just screams the era of the 90s. Nightwing, the long flowing acrobat. I mean, I think it's the perfect artwork that the artists that are on this book capture him being the acrobat so well.
And it's just that story too, like, you know, leaving his family behind and, you know, making it out on his own. Because I think I was at that point in my life where I was doing the same thing. I was going to college and leaving my family behind and trying to make a name on my own out there. I think that's maybe why I keep going back to this era of Nightwing and why it's so special to me. What's that, Justin?
Yourself in bourbon.
Also that. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out.
What is happening with Jess right now? I'm very confused.
He's having an 80s flashback. His chest looks like it was drawn by Rob Life. How?
No, yeah.
Not that big, guys.
The pecs are reduced. The pecs are reduced.
He has no feet though.
Chuck should have broke his back.
She's got a good arch. is all
Flexible
it is.
spine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it on my own. Okay, stop it, guys. All right.
That's funny.
No. All right. Let's move on to number 16. Flash by Mark Waid, Omnibus Volume 3 to wrap it up. We're thinking ahead about leaving out issues 130 to 141 because those are written by Mark Miller and Grant Morrison. And I think that they're just going to map around that, right, to wrap up this run.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I recently saw the spine, I think, on the Omnibus Reddit,
Right.
and
It's
it
the
looks
same.
just like the spine of these books. Like, it's clearly meant to fit
Yeah.
in between. Yeah. Some people will never be happy unless things are an omnibus, and we respect that here. But I'm telling you, that one might be fine as a deluxe.
The hard part is where do you put those issues when he came back to the book with the Wild Wild West characters? That's
Could
the hard
add that.
part.
It's just one arc, and like if it gets dipped later by a later
It's
Flash
so
omnibus,
much later, right? It's
yeah,
so
but you
much
put
later.
it in because it's Wade. DC's very good about that, whether you like it or not. DC is very good about being like, oh, there's 6 more issues by this creator, put them in there. Whereas Marvel's a little bit more dogged about like, no, this is in publication order. We can't jump ahead.
But yeah, I'm glad people are voting for this. This was number 24 last year and made it into number 16 this year. So people are very excited about this book.
Yeah.
I am too, and this
there's
wraps up the era.
This one's
There's a couple of issues towards the end that I think he's not the primary writer on. Like, he co-writes and then he dips out for an issue. But if you look at the mapping of the trades, it did include all of those. So there's no reason that they wouldn't be here.
Happy birthday, Omar. If Static wasn't number one. My buddy BJ Kicks, everybody from Comics Are Dope. Nothing was rigged, my friend. Nothing was not this
well,
time.
you'd say that, wouldn't you? I mean, yeah.
Well, you're the guy. If anybody rigged it, it was Lars with his 35 different Legion of Superhero choices. You're voting for the same book, people. All right, moving on to number 15, Batman. New Gotham.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
Okay.
Great era, man. This was
Great.
number 23 last year.
Perfect
Look at
cover.
that. I mean,
Look at
those
that
names
cover.
alone would sell this book. Rucka, Brubaker, forget it, man. This
Enough
is so
said.
good. This has been available in trades. There's New Gotham trades. There's Ed Brubaker trades that double dip with New Gotham. And neither one of those, for some reason, collected Officer Down.
Yeah, I know. It's like right in the
Like,
middle
it's
of
so
the two
weird
trades.
that both of those, even though they double dip, left out Officer Down, which is a crossover. So this would right that wrong. And I love this stuff, man. I love it. This goes into a little bit of the, well, no, it does. It will go into No Man's Land and then not No Man's Land, I'm sorry, the upcoming War Games. Or Murder Fugitive, that's what I meant. Have you read this, Jess? You're a huge fan of Greg Rucka.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny because Sonny from Scotland sent me those special books.
Yeah,
Murder
the Undersized-
Fugitive,
yeah.
and he also sent me a copy of Officer Down because it's not collected anywhere. So
Isn't that crazy?
yeah.
It's the one crossover that for some reason kept getting left out.
Yeah.
Yes, this is where we are introduced to the character of Sasha Bordeaux, who will later become a part of Checkmate.
This is such a great run.
And this is the best sell pitch right here. If anyone loved Gotham Central, they love these Omnis.
Yeah, I have.
Ooh, now I want to read it.
Yeah. Well, let's
Look
see.
at that
Yeah.
Batman animated take right there on that cover. Good choice. Okay, number 14.
Oh,
What?
finally!
Wow. I didn't expect the
This is
Bronze
number
Age book
one.
to be up so high, but last year was number 13. Collecting
what?
Batman 217 to 318. Okay, would begin to collect. Thank you, Peter. And 395 to 487. So,
This is the most important book on this poll.
wow, really? Tell me why.
Tell us.
Well, as you can see by the cover, this is the introduction of Ra's al Ghul. The issues are written it's the beginning of the Bronze Age. This marks the beginning of the Bronze Age when Batman starts to turn into the Dark Knight. There are consequences in this, and he also great characters are introduced besides Ra's. There's Talia that's introduced. Fabulous Neil Adams art, great Denny O'Neil writing, and it's a clear cut from the Silver Age Batman to this Batman that gets almost very serious compared to just the issues before it that were Silver Age. I wouldn't call it a hard reboot like I would call Superman Bronze Age #1 hard reboot.
Yes.
But this is an important turning point that I would say compares to X-Men. I'm sorry.
Deadly Genesis?
How dare you?
Giant size X-Men.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Yeah,
got you.
I would say that it's that kind of soft reboot that changes the entire picture and makes Batman far more interesting and layered, and using his #1 in the world detective skills, as Ra's always calls him, detective. This I don't understand why this book hasn't shown up 5 years ago. I pray that they're not going to go 10 Silver Age Omnis before they
Oh,
to
God,
this
no.
one. I'm going to be long dead by that point.
Don't say that.
Okay, I'm going to be 85.
I'm
and-
going to be long dead at the rate they're currently releasing the Silver Age omnibuses.
Both of you need to
not a-
calm down.
Wow.
If Futurama taught us anything, you could live on in a head form. It's okay.
Oh, so much fatalism here. My goodness.
But I just think, to Jess's point, like, this is there's certain runs that the Bronze Age is like, yeah, you would just wait because nothing really changes. Let's get through the Silver Age. Let's not get ping-ponging back and forth. This has such a unique difference. As somebody who sat down and read it, not understanding what the hype was, the difference between a Batman comic from 1968 and a Batman comic from 1972 is night and day. And this is really a lot. I know it's interesting because immediately pre-Crisis, Batman had kind of regressed to being like a little bit more lightweight and silly, and then he kind of got dark once again after Crisis. But a lot of the conceptions of Batman in media that we all have that saw Batman in media in the 80s and 90s actually came from this era, because this was what was influencing those creators, those directors, those writers, and then Batman kind of tacked back to being more like that after Crisis. At least that's my personal read on the history of Batman publishing.
And what is important that differentiates this from Batman by Neil Adams omnibus is that instead of just the Neil Adams stories, this would be a continuous run with different artists in between the Neil Adams stories. This would be a complete run with different artists and stuff, but Denny O'Neil writing a continuous story and Neil Adams popping up, in the first few issues, and by few I mean several issues. But when you read it in the Batman by Neil Adams omnibus, it's just his stories, whereas this will flow right through. Yes, I agree with that, Saturday Morning Fan. This flows and makes it all a cohesive run. Yes, it would.
It would contain all of the Dennis O'Neil run. Okay.
And most importantly, these issues came out, when Jess finally became a man, so that helped as well.
Yeah, I was 13. You're right.
Let's not go into details. We're going to move on to number 13. Speaking of 13, Martian Manhunter.
Shock! Shocker!
Wow.
Whoa!
Unbelievable.
Ostrander's name is meaning a lot this year. The
true.
fans came out.
This
Omar,
is
you were
huge.
talking about this one earlier.
Yeah, this is huge, man. Tom Mandrake on artwork, Jamal Igle on artwork, and oh man, this is a great run. John Ostrander, selling this hasn't even been collected fully in trade paperback.
No, it has
We had, I
not.
think, 1 trade and 2 solicited, and I think that's it. And you know what? I take it back. I don't think it even got solicited. I think it got canceled before it got solicited. It might have made it to the catalog, but yeah, has not been fully collected. And oh my gosh, it's such a great run. When people ask me, where can I start reading Martian Manhunter, I think of this run and I immediately go, oh, wait. It's not available in any format right now. It's out of print. So, yeah, this one came in strong. This was 72 last year.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think it's remarkable that people say to you, where can I start reading Martian Manhunter? That's not a statement I normally hear from people.
You know where I see that a lot? TikTok.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've been on TikTok for about a year now, and we got quite a following there. And the questions there are so different than the questions on YouTube because it's a different demographic.
Okay.
And for some reason, I tell you what drives a lot of the questions. Like for Marvel, it's the Marvel Rivals, right? Like, hey, where can I start reading Psylocke? Where can I start reading about Jeff the Shark? Where can I start reading Magic? And those videos blew up, and I'm like, why the hell do people want to know about Magic all of a sudden? Then my brother was like, oh, dude, we're all playing Marvel Rivals except for you. And I'm like, apparently. And the same thing with, like, I don't know what it is, but Martian Manhunter was popping off. But yeah. Very
Now,
happy.
Martian Manhunter had a limited amount of solo material after Crisis. He's mostly an anchor in the Justice League books, initially in Justice League International, and then later in task force, but the JLA line and the JLI line, I should say, has already progressed past some of these miniseries and has not collected them. So there are only 8 more issues. I don't think, I mean, I know that DC sometimes likes to keep a creator name omnibus sort of sacrosanct and not put other stuff in it, but at the point that we're only talking about 8 issues that otherwise seriously risk being abandoned, I would hope that maybe they would get mapped into
Yeah,
this.
because it's now or never.
Yeah.
Really.
It's now or never. I like that, Lars. Now or never.
But a lot of this is the pure strength of the creative team because, I mean, you know, Martian Manhunter did kind of peak in the Justice League cartoon, which was extraordinarily popular. But, you know, it's not an A-level.
Did you say he peaked?
Well, it was a peak, I should say.
Have you not seen the director's cut of Snyder's Justice League?
No, I have too much self-respect.
I legit like that movie. Okay, whatever. Never mind.
I know Omar, and we're still friends. It's okay. Yeah. So, but you know, but this is the same team that did Spec. Does Mandrake do all 36 issues? Or
No, he doesn't. But he does a majority of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's an increase in Martian Manhunter interest because of the Absolute line. That book is hugely popular with even the general public. That's what they want to see. That's what I like hearing. Which makes sense.
Art is amazing.
And there's not been a lot of Martian Manhunter comics, have there? So
no,
and no omnibuses. So
I'm going to go on to my number 12, which is Green Lantern Kyle Rayner.
There you go.
There was a compendium released, and you all don't care. You wanted an Omni format.
It still climbed 30 spots, even though the compendium is on Amazon.com right now.
Hey, they keep all things right, though.
Yeah.
I am not sure why Crisis is denying me the full Emerald Twilight story by leaving out issue 49, but that's okay. I forgive him. I think you mean.
Well, he's not in it.
Yeah, he is.
No, he's not.
Well, he's not in 48. I mean, he's.
Yes, he is.
No, we're putting Emerald Twilight in here. Final answer. You can't leave out Emerald Twilight.
But I guess the question really becomes, and again, my maps are not DC's maps. I think, isn't this how the compendium is mapped?
No,
I'll look it up.
I think the compendium actually has Emerald Twilight in it.
All right.
Yeah,
and you do need Emerald Twilight.
Yeah, you need Emerald Twilight. The whole thing. I think it's great. Yeah. Plus, it's all written by Ron Mars, right? 48, 49, 50. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it does have issue 49. I'll give you that. It's in the compendium.
I won you over. All right. Oh, because of a compendium. Thank you. But if you look,
he's not in it.
God, yes, I know he's not in. You want to have the last word? Fine, you win. By the way, that's what I do with Melanie, and I have the last word because I say, fine, you win. She doesn't realize it. 48 through 50. Yes. So Kyle Rayner was Green Lantern for a long time.
Yeah, it
was. It's insane. To a lot of people, that was Green Lantern. Mm-hmm. That was Green Lantern. And it went all the way to issue 181. And that's the whole thing with Ion, and then including the Ion series, of course. Yep. So this is a great run, man. I love this stuff. This, again, was an era when DC was changing their characters. Like, hey, this character is now dead. Somebody else will take over being Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash. Guy Gardner is going to be an alien, and he's going to be a warrior. Yeah. Oh, there he is. There's Warren. Thank you. Thank you for doubling down on why this run is so good. And wow, I didn't even realize that, Peter. 42 last year, number 12 this year. Yeah, those later issues are written by Judd Winnick as well. Yeah, more Winnick in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Great stuff, man. All right, let's keep going. Hold on a second. I was underwhelmed by this compendium. That's okay, because it will blow you away when it's in omnibus format.
It'll be completely different.
It'll be a different experience. You're like, oh, the bigger artwork. I appreciate this a lot more.
Yeah. It'll be heavier.
Right. We're about to hit the top 10, guys. You ready? Woo! Number 11. Oh, yes, baby.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
This is a given.
Supergirl by Peter David, Volume 1.
This is the only choice for the cover. The only choice.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one, man. It's so. This run was so good. I'm so glad people spoke up and voted for it. It was number 19 last year. There is a DC Finest coming out, but again, there's different collectors that want different things.
Yeah.
I love this era. This is my favorite era of Supergirl, and enough material for 3 Omnis. And oh man,
so much
the
that has not been
trades
collected.
started, right? Like trades started. We got to what 40 something, and then they stopped. And that's
and they haven't been collected.
I think
No.
as you say, we'll all be.
You know what? What's weird is that the last part of this run has been collected. The last few issues
Yeah, they
was
did.
a trade paperback. What was it? What is it called? To all good, not to all good things. It was. I can't remember the name of the trade off the top of my head.
No,
I'm
but
sure
right.
Peter can.
Yeah.
No Way Home. Anyway, that's been collected, but for some reason those other issues haven't been collected, outside of maybe like a crossover, or something. But that's it.
Yeah, it's great that they're doing the DC Finest collection, but again, we'll all be dead by the time that DC Finest collection will be end.
What is this Wii stuff? You, Jess, and Peter are the only ones talking about. Me, Tigereyes, and
I feel
Chris are fine.
I feel a synergy going that we're all going to die before
All
these.
the Legion of Superheroes.
We all really
It will just
Yeah.
feel like we're all going to die. No, but yeah, an omnibus here makes complete sense because there's
Yeah.
so much material that to collect in that format. Yeah. And I just finished the IDW Fallen Angel, which was
right?
really good. Which is really good. Now, by the time you get to
Started
the
at
IDW
DC.
series, clearly she isn't Supergirl. But
No.
I mean, she just isn't. But oh god, it was great stuff. Absolutely great stuff.
Yeah, this is such a phenomenal series, and again, Peter David, a name that you can look at and be like, oh, well, this is gonna be good. How dare you insult my Legion? I'm sorry, Chubby Ray Comics. You and Lars and Jess. I apologize to all 12 Legion fans.
How dare you?
Oh, the Linda Danvers days of Supergirl. Yes.
Cliff.
Peter, have you read any of this?
No, not a single issue.
Because you would love this.
I probably would. I mean, I love Peter David.
You
and
would
I
love
love
it.
female protagonists, so
I think so,
I'm
too.
sure.
Pop-up Triangle era is going to be in the top 10. Speaking of top 10, we're about to hit the top 10. So
Let's
this
go,
is a little
baby.
reminder. Hit that like button and let's get going with number 10.
But wait, first we
Wait.
have some statistics for you. So we're going to start dripping out some stats now that we're getting close to the top. So people have been saying, where's all the books from the XYZ decade? That is how the decades on the poll broke out. The majority of the poll is actually from the 80s and 90s. So people are saying there is a recency effect after Flashpoint. There is some post-Flashpoint stuff, but maybe not as much as you think. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is that 52%, so just a hair over half of this, collect material from comics volumes that have never been meaningfully collected in Omnibus. So what I mean by that is like Firestorm, which we saw earlier. Yeah. There are about 3 Firestorm issues that are between Suicide Squad and also in oversized Crisis books been collected, but that has never been meaningfully collected on its own in Omnibus, as opposed to Green Arrow from 2003. We now have half of that in Archer's Quest. I would say that is a volume that has already been meaningfully collected in Omnibus. So basically the poll is half and half between books that are from volumes that have been untouched in Omnibus and books that are in volumes that have been touched by an Omnibus. But even in a run that's been touched by Omnibus, like Detective Comics, we're missing a whole decade of that. So that's not necessarily a definitive statistic. But now let's move on to number 10.
Jimmy.
Not before I correct something right now. A bunch of old boomer comics show us some new. First of all, this is Gen X, is 80s. The boomer comics are the stuff that was pre 1980.
I am the only boomer here. How dare you?
Are you really?
I am. Yeah. Who else could be a boomer?
Probably.
No, really. Okay.
My taste in
All right.
music is boomer, but
Yeah, I agree with that. I love that.
Yeah, the stakes are really high now because there's stuff like All-Star Squadron that you think, well, we haven't seen it. It must be in the top 10. And so if it's not in the top 10, we're going to die in a fire, probably. But it's all or nothing.
Everybody's gonna.
wow, Lars,
Yeah.
you're really fixated
Yeah,
on.
why are
on-
we going dark, dude? Can we just stay with the happy things? I love this comment. Gen X, the forgotten gen. Let's forget their comics. Ooh, wow.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, let's
Where
do
was
it.
that?
Number 10.
Number 10.
Flash by William Messer Loebs, Volume 2. We had a Volume 1 that came out. When was that? 2020, 2024, right? It wasn't 2023. This was number 71 in 2024. And
So close.
This will wrap up that era that, oh my gosh, then we'll have Flash by William Messner Loebs. After this, we'll have Flash by Mark Waid 1, 2, and 3 when 3 comes out. Oh, that would be awesome. Then we'll have a big run of Flash all collected in a big format. If you include the Mark Miller and Grant Morrison book.
Edging out Mark Waid. I would have thought Mark Waid would have been higher, but yeah.
It's one of those things that, people have now a bigger, stronger faith in DC that they'll actually finish it out.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe forget about this William Messner Loeb stuff here from post-crisis. A lot of dads must have easy on the dad jokes voted yesterday. No, the polls were closed last week. No Father's Day voting here. And we do love filling in the gaps. Yes, gets us one step closer to having an undisrupted run.
And Flash in general, I mean, he's one of the few DC heroes that's completed Silver Age all the way up to Bronze. And then they've started every Flash run, which is kind of hilarious. So there's a Messner Loebs 1, there's a Waid 1 and 2. They've done all of John's, but they still needed John's companion to finish John's. They did the Buccellotto, but there needs to be another omnibus that comes after that. They've done 2 of the Williamsons, but there's a 3rd Williamson that we need. So they love starting with Flash, but maybe not a great finisher. We need to see some of those runs finished up.
Yeah, Flash Bronze Age. There's a ton even missing on digital. I think if you go on DC Infinite, there's like huge gaps there. So.
Yeah, and of course we don't have any Golden Age Jay Garrick in Omnibus.
No.
And one more time, not available in any format yet.
All right.
Number 9, Swamp Thing by Alan Moore.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of books that have been available in omnibus format and books in oversized format, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing has never been available in a deluxe size format. It's been available in absolute editions. It's standard size hardcover, a trade paperback. It's been a box set, and you all voted for it as number 9. Funny enough, it was number 9 last year, and it's number 9 again. Original colors, please, is something that
the only
people
reason
are
I still
saying.
have my trades.
That's why I still have my standard hardcovers.
Yeah, so original colors are the way to go. I think so too. Because if you have people that have bought the absolutes and you still want them to buy the Omni, then that's what you do. You put the original colors on the Omni, right? And then they're going to be like, "Oh man, well now I got to buy that." Damn it! I know I do it.
I'm doing it
all the time. All the time, man.
I mean, not a question.
Well, and also I just think it speaks to the eternal nature of this, that truly it's been in every format except for Omnibus, and for it to still be in the top 10 when people have had ample time to buy it. Yeah, you can make the argument that the original colors are harder to come by and people want to see it come back out that way, but just something needing original colors isn't enough to get it into the top 60 of a poll, let alone the top 10. There was no Walt Simonson original colors Thor on the Marvel poll in the top 60, even though that was a choice on the poll. Like, there's an endless hunger. This is one of those books that people will buy in every size, every format, every color configuration. It always will be a classic.
Yeah. This will sell like crazy. Now, again, do we think this should be 1 omnibus or 2?
No way. This is a 1 omnibus. This is a 2
DC
omnibus.
likes money. I think it's probably 2.
I mean, especially if they're going to restore the original colors.
Sales
That's
often
not
go
gonna be-
down with a volume 2. So, I don't know.
It'll be 2 shorter volumes,
Yeah,
Fun, easy to hold in the hand.
because there's 6 standard hardcovers.
Number 8,
Number 8.
All-Star Squad.
There we go. See?
There you go.
Wow.
Well
This
done.
is another big surprise. Number 12 last year. I really thought this would go back down some because
No.
we had almost 3 times as many votes as we did last year.
Well,
And I thought we'd have a younger crowd, but
No.
even the younger crowd is voting for books like this.
Well, when Infinity Incorporated was on the list, I thought, well, then this has to be on the list somewhere.
It's not a done deal, Lars.
No, I know.
So Roy Thomas had this uncanny ability to retcon a series into the past like he did with the Invaders. And that's what All-Star Squadron is. It takes place in the past. And then eventually, of course, we got the Infinity Inc. But it's really cool. This, by the way, this is David Gabriel. This and Firestorm are David Gabriel's most wanted DC Omnis. It
Yeah.
has been for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And both made it on the top 60. Yeah. Yeah. Some people remember Aria. Maybe Gabriel will be excited with All-Star Squadron's placement. Absolutely.
Well, you kind of wish almost this was an annotated version because so much Roy Thomas would put so much thought into these stories. I remember if you look at the backup material for Crisis in Infinite Earths, Marv Wolfman put out the cattle call and he said to the various writers, "Tell me what you want me to do in Crisis." And like Roy Thomas sent like copious amounts of notes, and like even in the material, you know, Marv Wolfman goes, "Look, I did the best I could with what people told me, except for Roy Thomas. He told me everything he wanted." So you just stop and think there must be tons of information to be gleaned from this. But hey, any collection's good.
JSA love in the top 10. Top 10. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Nick, for that. All right. Number 7. You ready for this, guys?
No.
No one.
Batman Contagion Legacy. We talked about Contagion Legacy. The Aftermath. This is actually my most wanted Batman on. I think I placed this before I did Batman Post Crisis. I love this stuff. This is another one of the crossover eras, and technically, this is where No Man's Land really begins.
Yeah,
this is one thing that leads into another. It's a Contagion, it's Legacy, and from Legacy you get the Cataclysm. From Cataclysm you get Aftershock. Aftershock after that you get the Road to No Man's Land, and then No Man's Land is just one huge story that is being told through all these volumes of just Batman, Detective Comics. I think I was going to say Robin gets involved in here, and so does Catwoman. But yeah, this is a great. I love this stuff, and nice choice on cover there, Peter. Yeah, I love that. Good choice. And let me get this super chat from Bruce really quick. I read All-Star Squadron when I was a kid. Loved it. Bruce has had that experience lately with books that he loved as a kid, and coming back to doing our book club, he's like, I hate this now. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Standards have changed a little bit. Yeah.
Could be Legends of the Dark Knight #1. Maybe. We will see.
I hope so. I hope that one's.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
Any other? I know me and Chris really like this era. Tigereyes, did you like this Batman stuff?
I did. It was a lot of fun when I was a kid.
This is one of my favorite moments with. Oh man! Anyway, I don't want to spoil.
So many different things come home to roost starting here.
Yeah, you're like, what? And the mask get like when they remove the mask, you're like, what? Then somebody else removes his mask, and you're like, oh man, I didn't see that coming. Anyway.
It's just an endless series of masks. He's wearing like 15 of them.
Yeah. Two people. All right. Number 6. Superman Exile Aftermath. This is what we call the Eradication era. This is another one of those huge gap fillers. It would take place after Superman by John Byrne and right before Superman Exile. And right before Superman the Triangle era.
This is before the Triangle era.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
So right after Exile, before Superman Triangle era. And it's sort of the beginning of like, let's test the waters with different creators, and kind of following the weeks. And that's where the Triangle era idea came from. I love this stuff. Jerry Ordway, Dan Jurgens. And John Byrne had left the book by this point. And really cool, man. Love it. This is great stuff, and it's one of those that I'm surprised we haven't gotten yet, but hopefully it will come.
Well, and I think it's interesting to see this one have such a jump. I was commenting in the chat that some of these things really stuck in their spots, like that Swamp Thing, like the previous book, because there's getting to be a really big separation between each of these books. It's like we're climbing a ladder and the rungs are getting farther and farther apart as we're going towards #1. So for this to make a jump this big into the top 10 is actually means it gained a significant amount of votes. And I think I would put that down to the fact that now that DC is surging ahead in the Triangle line and we got Triangle 2, I feel like people are getting like even more anxious. Again, nothing motivates people on these polls like a gap fill on the shelf. So now it's not that just Triangle 1 is like an outlier. It's clear that DC is going to keep moving through that. I think people are like really starting to beat the drum as like, don't forget about this. We didn't want you to skip it. This is got good material. And I would agree. This is actually probably where probably where my initial Superman reading was. And like, there's good stories in here. I think I don't have any problem with the kind of the hold that Byrne had on the run before, but I think it was actually a good thing to kind of like have the titles separate a little bit and tell some more stories. And this is a really enjoyable run that I think will read really well in Omnibus.
Yeah, and it's got ties back to Krypton when, you know, John Byrne established that there's only one Kryptonian, and that's Superman. That's why we couldn't have Supergirl for such a long time. Yet we get a sort of Supergirl that will become the Supergirl in Peter David's run of Supergirl. It's good stuff, man. All right, top 5. Here we go. Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, Volume 1. A series that I have been asked about since I started the channel and started talking about Omnis and collected editions. And it's funny because people assume that there is already a collection of Batman Legends of the Dark Knight out there.
There's a few little ones, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, they're like, where can I find Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Volume 1? They're not asking about Venom. They're not asking about Gothic. They're asking about where can I find Volume 1?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, believe it or not, they haven't done a collection like that.
You have to kind of admire the ambition that went into this, because, you know, like, because I would talk to Denny O'Neil sometimes when I was a wizard, and they would do stuff that they would know would make more work for themselves. A series like this, normally when you have a title, you want to put a writer and an artist on and just kind of let them go. And if they're doing good work, you don't have to worry about it. Here, you have to go around and go, do you have a story? 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 You know, when people are only on there for 2-3 issues, then you have to keep, you know, finding more people to do great work. But God, the results were outstanding. They really were outstanding.
And I almost think if I'm DC, part of me is like, there's so much outstanding work on this title. Is it actually better as deluxes? Because they can kind of like narrow it and call it like, you know, Gothic and Prey and Venom and this. Because in an omnibus, but on the other hand, I think the demand is so high and it's such evergreen material because it's kind of that murky. It's like what I always call Batman year 1.5. Like, it's not a year 1 story, but it's early Batman, and it kind of like fit. A lot of them are kind of older than current continuity. So, you know, I'd love to see the demand for it this high. If I was actually working for the collected editions department, I definitely would be tempted by the idea of doing this as a series of deluxe editions that were like 2 or 3 story arcs each, because this was a book relatively rare if you think about it for the late 19 and by it should be 1989, not 1980 there, obviously. Kind of rare in 1989 that it was all arcs and it was numbered, and because of what Lars explained with that each creator had a limited run on it. And so this was, you know, it's very decomposable into smaller volumes because it's a rare late 80s, early 90s title that has arcs.
I think I would be counter argument. I would just start with number 1 and just go boom. Because the thing is, you much like we discussed in Marvel Fanfare, we're like, don't screw with the mapping. Don't screw with the mapping. Right. And here I think it's the same thing. You want that variety. You want that gear shift. You want here's the thing where you really want different voices in the process. So I would say don't chop it up. Let it be this glorious entire series. This ran a long time. Didn't this run like 150 issues or something like that?
But by the time it got to post Legacy, it kind of became part of like modern Batman instead of, hey, this is just Batman solo before Robin, before all these crazy adventures, right? It kind of became, oh, this is part of the crossover now. By the way, this is Dustin Kitchen's personal number 1.
Right here. All right. There we go.
Doggy.
Yeah. So
I think
also wants this made.
Yeah.
Nice.
And just let it start with number 1. Let it be what it is. It means that not every single story is going to absolutely trip your trigger, but you want that variety. I would gobble this up.
And I do think it kind of, you know, and I'm not trying to like advocate for deluxe, because I'm just trying to think through like, why don't we have it yet? What could be the decision-making process? But I also think that as one big hunk of maybe 50 or 55 issues, this is so evergreen because it has so many kind of greatest ever Batman stories in it that it's like, everybody's always gonna recommend it. The way that they do with the Sale and Loeb book now, where people are like, I don't really know a lot of Batman. What's one good Batman to have on your book on yourself? I feel like a lot of people would say the Loeb and Sale book, and I feel like this would then immediately give it a run for its money if this existed.
Well, prior to this, they may have gotten in the groove of just doing creator named omnibuses, because, you know, here there's no.
Yeah, you can't market it with creators because there's 2 dozen.
The title has to sell it, and
I can see that may not have been where the priority was, but yeah, it's good that it's here now.
It says something where you have like, okay, you have 3 or 4 issues. What if you had to tell the best Batman story you had to tell? What is it?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, interesting. So expect to see it. Just maybe a bit.
Yeah.
By a bit, how about 6 months?
I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the restoration.
I
Too.
like how we're in the negotiating phase. Release the hostages.
All right. You guys ready for number 4?
Yeah.
I'm emotionally prepared.
Anybody
There's
else?
still some shocks left on this poll.
There it is.
Oh, yeah. There's one that I'm like, there's no way in hell. How did that get in there? Worse.
Wow.
Hawk World by John Ostrander
Wow.
and Tim Truman.
Hey.
Look at that jump.
Time.
Dude, that is a huge
fascinating.
jump. 112 to number 4. I love this series. This was like, okay, DC, let's get our crap together and let's actually set the status quo for what will be Hawkman post Crisis on Infinite Earths. And it was solid. This is when I got into Hawkman. I want to say I don't think there's been any collection besides maybe one small one.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I think of the 89 series,
Yeah.
I want to say has been collected. Yeah.
There was a little. I remember it being a small trade paperback. Ostrander this year has just blown up on the list.
Yeah,
and I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is this getting such a goose? Is it John Ostrander? Is it we had the Hawkman by Jeff Johns reprint, so maybe that wet some people's whistle. I don't know.
Is
Screw-
Hawkman in like a
Suicide Squad.
cartoon or something? Is he in the new James Gunn? I feel like Hawkman is just in the conversation more this year, and he doesn't even have a book out right now.
I mean, this was well regarded.
I
Truman-
dug into it not knowing what it was because people were telling me about it for the poll, and I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. Like, now I'm like a Hawkworld truther.
And let's not forget Tim Truman too, who did a lot of Conan the Barbarian work. So Tim Truman was a big part of this, and working with Ostrander.
And Hawk World is why Hawkman's origin story gets so confusing, but I think people have had 30 years to acclimate. So
Was it the Black Adam movie? Is it?
Yeah.
oh, right.
That's it. That was it. Okay, guys, we are in our top 3. This is it. Drum roll, please. I said drum roll, please. You're embarrassing me. Thank you. How did you type and do a drum roll at the same time, dude?
ADHD, baby.
Oh my God, that
Superpowers.
was amazing. All right, number 3.
No, not
Thank-
really.
I knew
Fun
it.
fact.
I knew it.
There is a massive separation of votes. I've already kind of teased that there's kind of a ladder with rungs farther and farther apart as we get into the top 10, which makes it truly insane that Hawkworld is number 4. Like, honestly, it defies, I think, anything we've seen in the history of Tigereyes in the past couple of years. When looking at these top 3, each of them, they were nothing else got close. The separation between that number 4, which got a huge amount of votes, and number 3 is 20 first place votes. So this top 3, there is no negotiation, there is no hemming and hawing. These are the top 3. And more than that, they're each separated by another huge amount of votes each. So this is a very clear, very defined, your top 3 most wanted DC omnibuses.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
The Holy Trinity. Okay.
Now another stat.
Not really. Not really. You'll see why here in a second. Number 3.
Oh, you gotta be kidding! Oh wow!
How
Jeez.
how did this happen?
The Legion
this
is
is
Lars,
the-
we're going to see Lars get emotional live on stream.
Joy. Absolute joy.
Lars's
Legion of
Christmas.
Superheroes by Paul Levitt, Volume 2.
Okay.
Not even volume 1. People skipped over the
because
Curse of
they're
the
like, we
Darkness
got the curse,
because it's
we
been
got the
collected.
curse.
Yeah.
We got the curse, we got the Great Darkness Saga. Let's move on to
Yeah,
The
that
next
number 1 has a huge amount of double dipping. Okay, here's the deal with this. So it's not just that this fills a gap. It's not just a gap filler because this would fill the gap between what's already out from the Great Darkness Saga and the Curse to Legion 5 years later. It's that this is the crux of some of the most beloved, the most well-read, the most well-regarded Legion stories ever. It's just hit after hit after hit in here. You got the War with the Legion of Supervillains. You've got the Who is the Censor Girl story. You've got the Universo Project. You've got Conspiracy. You've got the Magic Wars. You've got it's just a truly stunning run. You've got art by Steve Lytle, who is one of my favorite artists ever. He's basically our Paul Smith. That he wasn't on the title very long, but it was just this massive impact. Greg LeWark's in there, Keith Giffen's in there. Yeah, this is, if you're a Legion fan, this is the Holy Grail. It is it's not just a gap filler, it's the Holy Grail. I'd be thrilled to see this. Absolutely. And barely reprinted. They did 2 small soft covers of the first 13 issues on, again, terrible paper that was not meant to last. So a proper collection would be most welcome.
Jess, any feelings that this is in the top 3 right now?
I'm outraged.
The anger you can feel out of him.
This is the Legion of Superheroes, you fool! Is Farrell Land on the cover?
There's this one book that I want in there, and it's just not. And
Which one? Karate Kid? No, which one?
the top 3.
This doesn't give you joy?
No, I
really
want what I want to see is the equivalent of the Batman Bronze Age Omni #1 is the Superman Bronze Age Omni #1.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
And I just don't see it being
You have
top
2 more shots.
I would pay good money to see this.
What wine to have with this one? I think this is a fine cab. This is definitely going to be a cab to go with this.
All right. Well, it's not Superman, but it might be Bob Hope coming in at #2.
Yes, I hope I map. Yeah, I got the Legion of Substitute Heroes special in there. I think we mapped this pretty well. It's going to be a question of where to put those Tales of the Legion issues. I can argue it either way. I could argue for leaving them out. I don't know. That's the big X factor here. But God, this is wonderful to see.
Oh,
Chucky Ray, come on.
I'm so happy. All right. Philip, thank you so much for the super chat. I've been kind of quiet, but love Poison Ivy spot. Al, the Wonder Woman, but give me Cassie, Cassandra Cain, Batgirl at #1. Sad Omar forgot it was neck and neck with Tom King last year. Fake Cassandra Cain fan. God, I'm so sorry. I can't remember where things were placed last year. All right. Bob Hope coming in at #2. No, just kidding. Was it Indiana Jones? God
More
bless.
stats.
Oh my God.
So I have to put it in here because everybody in the chat is like, Batman, Batman, Batman. Let's talk numbers because my motto is data or it didn't happen. 20% of the top 60 is Batman. That is down from 26% last year. 10% of the top 60 is Batman family, so like Nightwing, Batgirl. That is down from 13% last year. 7% of the top 60 are Superman, down from 10% last year. 3% of the top 60 are Wonder Woman, unchanged. So that means that actually the Batman dominance on this year's poll is far, far less than it was last year's poll. We have a very diverse set of options. Compare that to the Marvel poll. 15% this year was Spider-Man and the Spider Family. 32% was X-Men. So the DC poll has a much more diverse set of options. Also, we've been seeing a lot of things coming into the top 60 that weren't in the top 60 before. Last year, 22% of the top 60 were announced. We covered that at the beginning of the show. This year, 58%, more than half of the top 60 are appearing in the top 60 for the first time. So there's been a lot of turnover. A lot of books from 50 to 60 dropped off as some of these other books surged. And we took out volume 2s this year that we just mapped ahead for no reason. So last year, like All Star Squadron volume 2 was on the poll last year. We took that off the poll this year. Like, let's just focus the votes on volume 1. Making those choices, it probably is what allowed things like Infinity Inc. to get into the top 60 because people took out their volume 2 votes and put them onto other material. I think that's probably why things, we had a couple of surprises in here because it freed up more votes for people. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. I just had to say, it's not, Batman did not dominate. If anything, Legion dominated.
Yeah.
Well, I think the variety on the whole here has been really strong.
I don't know about that. I think Legion dominated, and the last.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, of course, Batman is.
Lars,
Batman.
you already have enough say about Legion of Superheroes.
All right.
Batman is
All right,
Batman.
we're going on #2. #2.
All right, fine.
Oh God, if it's another Legion of Superhero title. Whew. All right. Superman, Man of Steel by John
Oh,
Byrne,
okay,
Volume
okay.
1.
That's fair.
So
Yeah.
this is my number one and has been my number one for 20 years.
Yeah.
This stuff has been available in a hardcover format. It's been available in trade paperbacks. That's how Jess and I met. As a matter of fact.
It's an origin story.
And you know what's funny? We just did a book club on our Patreon for this. My wife had never read it, and there were a couple of people that had never read it, you know, and it was like 50-50. Some that had never read it loved it. Others that never read it were like, I think it's overhyped. I think with somebody like John Byrne on art with Dick Giordano on inks, like it's a can't miss. I love this stuff. You know, he's retelling the origin of Superman in 6 issues, post-Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yeah, I love this stuff. Introducing new characters, supporting cast, and establishing the new rules for Superman post-Crisis. Yeah.
If we're getting
So, I
triangle
think
years,
part of
we're getting
what's-
this. We gotta have it.
And I think part of what's so fun about it, and Chris, I don't know this material probably as well as you, but I have read it, is like, it does his origin, but it then doesn't keep him in a bottle. I think in George Perez's Wonder Woman, which of course I worship, she's kind of bottled for a while because George Perez just wants to like play with her history and who she is as a character. Byrne very quickly starts exposing this new version of Superman to a wider world because I think he realizes how much ground he has to make up to like sew him into the fabric of post-crisis. So like this Superman, there's lots of villains, there's lots of other heroes. Like it just feels actually more expansive, in my opinion, than you might think for it to being like a single creator focused run across multiple titles. Chris, what do you think about that statement?
I mean, look, you even get Batman within the first run. You know,
Yeah.
The appearance, like you said, it's a larger world. Like I think this is what kind of reestablishes a, you know, every single villain you ever could have thought could be thrown at this and then some. I mean, you say Wonder Woman is a bottle. Wonder Woman's in this at different points. So, I mean, you look at what the movie's going to be doing at that point. They say Superman's coming into a world where heroes already exist. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, this is an excuse to print money. In fact, it might have been a good idea to have about before the movie, but yeah.
I have to think, and I, unlike Omar, have no inside baseball information. I have to think there must be a restoration issue or like a talking to Byrne about special features issue, because of course you would release this for the movie and print and turn on the money gun and just go make it rain. So like I have to think that there's some technical production reason that this is not out this year.
One of the weirdest excuses I saw, and it came when I used to frequent the Masterworks forum, so this must have been well over 20 years ago, was, I think it was something to do with licensing, which didn't make any sense to me. Is it Superman? And I don't know. It was just something that I remember seeing that people were saying in the Marvel Masterworks forum. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in the Marvel Masterworks forum. This is a DC book. I'm in the wrong place. Don't. All right. Last one.
It's going to be a stat. I'm going to call it another stat.
Another stat? We'll see. Are you ready for your number one most wanted DC Omnibus?
We will never be ready, but we'll...
That you all voted for.
Okay.
Batgirl Cassandra Cain.
Wow.
Omnibus Volume 1, baby. It was number 2 last year. It was neck and neck. I forgot about that. Good call, Philip. I had no idea that there's this much love for Cassandra Cain. Like, that melts my heart. I just did a video, coincidentally enough, on TikTok, and even the youth is about Cassandra Cain. They're like, oh, yeah, man, that's the Batgirl. I love Cassandra Cain. I'm like, what? That's awesome. Oh, Kelly Puckett. Great artwork by what is his name? Not Trevor Scott. What is it? Is it Trevor Scott? Peter? Trevor Scott?
I don't know my DC creators quite as well. Damian Scott, perhaps, is who you're thinking of?
Thank you. Damian
Because
Scott.
I will point out, we have literally in my hot little hands a DC finest of this run that just came out that collects a huge portion of what would be this first omnibus. Batgirl 7 through 27, so at least half of this omnibus, and it's still number 1, and it is not close at all. It dominated. It is the heavyweight champion of this poll. Nothing else touched it. So
Man.
even with a paperback out in the last few months of this exact material, it still ground the other options under its heel.
Well, it's a memorable run, and it's never been properly collected. And, the youth kind of get into this as well. There is a teenager in my orbit who is really into Batman. And so I actually bought the Batgirl DC Finest. And while I bought one for me, I bought one for her as well. So I said, here's your Batman Finest. And so this is the sort of kid that they're like 18. And we watched the Batman Lego movie. And they look at me ponderously afterward. And they go, you know what's wrong with that movie, don't you? And I go, no. And they go, Dick and Barbara are supposed to be the same age. This is how.
Okay, I'm jumping in.
This is how seriously they take it. So,
I'm sorry that it's been so long. Whoop.
I don't think we were supposed to be listening to that call.
I don't know. Maybe we were. So look, I think the other thing is that Cassandra Cain is kind of having a moment right now. She has her own solo book as solo Batgirl for the first time in many years. They had Batgirls, but she hasn't been the Batgirl in a while. And she's arguably also the lead character in Kelly Thompson's massively well-loved Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
So I just feel like she's having a moment right now. And and The Finest came out, and could we maybe see an omnibus?
Yeah. And her particular relationship with the other Bat characters, it wasn't like your typical Batgirl thing because, Bruce is trying to train her, Barbara Gordon is trying to train her, and so on. But of course, she's not a typical Batgirl. And in the course of this, they tell her, do not, whatever you do, engage with Lady Shiva. She is better than you. She will kill you. Do not engage with her. And of course, what's the first thing she goes out and does?
Absolutely.
But no, it's riveting. Yeah.
This is my favorite Batgirl. I'm so glad people spoke up this year. This is a really funny comment, but it's so true that Cass is uniting people. Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, boomers unite for Cassandra Cain. She brought us all together, man. Like democracy rules. You all have spoken. But yeah, I love the beginning of this when Babs doesn't accept the fact that someone is running around as Batgirl. She hates it. And then how they kind of win her over. I held off on the DC Finest for Batgirl and Supergirl because they need an omnibus format.
Yeah. Here's what I think they can put out the omnibus. I don't think it will impede their DC Finest sales, really.
Is there anything else in the poll with first place vote?
I apologize. I have to hop.
Yeah, man.
I've been keeping somebody waiting, as you heard, on my unmuted.
You don't need to say anything else, Jess. You go on.
I'm just surprised you didn't call it very fine condition while you were talking to them on the phone.
Yeah.
I apologize. I have to go to my other show, Omni Bros, right now, and I appreciate, Omar, the invitation to be here. Thank you so much, and thank you, Peter and Tigereyes and everybody that worked so hard on this poll. This had to be an enormous amount of work, and I really appreciate all the work that went into this, and I really appreciate your letting me join you. And Peter will be on Omnidog's Vault on Wednesday, day after tomorrow, with Freddie, jamming on comics and music and why Superman Bronze Age needs to be number one.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy. Peace and
Take
love.
care, brother. Bye-bye. And bro, for real, can you imagine how huge she would have been in New 52 hadn't gotten rid of her? I know. I was so happy to see her back in James Tynion's run. I think that's why I really like that run, even though she was known as Orphan during that time.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the stats here, Peter.
Before you do that, I gotta go.
Chris. Yes, that's right. 9:30.
No, you're good. Thank you. Always, again, echoing Jess, the hard work y'all do to put this together was amazing. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. Omar, I'll see you in a couple days, buddy.
Take it easy, buddy. I can't
Yes,
wait
you
for
do.
Heroes Con. Bye, man.
Later.
All right.
So Much like we did on the Marvel poll, even though the full list will be on the Near Mint Condition Patreon, so it's a great time to join. Plus, you get to spar with us on the Near Mint Condition Discord, which is always a good time. I know that people have a lot of but what about mine? But what about mine? Now, there were 667 things on the poll, so we can't go through them one by one. But I will say, voting matters. It is what, as I often say, the sexiest thing you can do in a democracy, because some things came real darn close, literally one poll response away. If one first place vote came in for these three, Batman White Knight Universe by Sean Murphy, which was in the top 60 last year, Nightwing by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo, Volume 2, which Volume 1 was in the top 60 last year, and of course we got it, and also Animal Man Volume 2 by Milligan and Veitch last year was in the top 60. They were within 10 points of being in the top 60 this year. And then, again, voting is important. Another 5 or 6 votes, and not even number 1 votes, just like votes at number 4 or number 5, would have gotten in a classic Booster Gold Omnibus, Azrael, DC vs. Aliens and Predator, which would have had the distinction of being the first book to ever appear on both polls, Batman the Animated Series, Gotham Adventures, and also, shockingly, Captain Atom. So that 80s love was strong this year.
That isn't, I wouldn't have expected that.
So vote next year. Get ready now, man. But we have one more slide because I know that people really have their favorites and they want to know what moved around. So here's a little bit to wet your whistle to encourage you to maybe join the Patreon and get the full list. Here are the biggest 5 gainers on the poll. I'm not telling you where they wound up, just how much they gained. Atom, Power of the Atom by Roger Stern and Tom Payer gained 300 places. Spectre by Doug Munch, which fits prior to Ostrander, gained 226 places. Just behind it, leaping 224 places, this one shocked me. Batman Superman World's Finest, the Post-Crisis Omnibus, which has all of their team-up mini-series between 1990 and 2009. 24 places. Then, jumping 216 places, not the next Hellblazer, which I thought was really interesting, which had been Volume 5, but actually Hellblazer John Constantine Volume 8, which is the final volume of the Hellblazers before it got rebirthed, which is by Milligan. And then finally, another Tom Payer. Maybe he's having a year too. Maybe we're going to see him surge in the top 60 next year, jumping 196 places of all things. Our Man by Tom Payer. So if you want to see the full results and do your own statistical analysis on them, please join the Near Mint Condition Patreon.
We getting the biggest faller. Thank you for voting.
I might be able to tell you that offhand. I might be able to figure it out.
And watching all of the 2025 Near Mint Condition polls. Wow, that wraps it up, right? Woo! I think people have suggested some things, and some of the things they have suggested are like Image Comics, which I do have a great contact over there, but Image works a little different, right? They have creator-owned books, so it's really up to the creator and Image to get reprints and new books, and also Epic Collections. Now, in the past, Marvel has told me their Epic Collection line has kind of been mapped out. They know when they want to release them, but that was also before the introduction of modern epics. So I thought, well, maybe we can do it next year. And, if Dustin and his team want us to get involved, we could surely do a poll for maybe new DC Finest books. So maybe that will be all next year, because it does take a lot of work, especially when it comes to the mapping, to people have an idea of exactly when these books take place. So it's one of our favorite time of the year, and it does take a lot of work, but it's so fun. Like, it is so fun to be doing this and working with all these wonderful folks and kind of putting them together. So, thank you. So thank you all so much that are still here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for voting, taking the time to vote. Absolutely. Thank you. Peter, what did you think of this year? Where were your votes placed?
I got 1 on the poll, which was my Wonder Woman by Mester Loebs and Diodato. I stayed true to myself, and I only voted for my 3 things that I actually buy in oversized from DC, which is Wonder Woman, Wildstorm, and also Sandman books. And so the Sandman books, none of them made it into the top 60. I'm always pulling for the Dreaming to get in there. And of course, no Wildstorm. I will drop one more little kernel. I correctly predicted, without looking at the results at any point, what the number 1 Wildstorm book would be on the poll. It didn't quite make it into the top 100, but it was pretty close. I'm happy to entertain your guesses. But yes, all of my top 10 were Wonder Woman, Sandman, and Wildstorm.
Yeah, there were so many books that were we made available, and half of them were Legion of Superhero books. Half of those made it into the top freaking 60, man.
To be fair, we're playing catch up. I mean, some of the titles there's more to reprint, whereas Martian Manhunter there's kind of just the one book.
Firestorm, yeah, I was happy to see Firestorm. It's really crazy that I didn't see any, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see a single Vertigo title, right?
No, we were so worried that Vertigo was going to dominate that we left it off last year to be like, let's just get a baseline before like Transmet or whatever comes in here and crush everything. None of it made it.
Again, there's a lot of Vertigo books that are already published.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are very happy to have the absolutes. Transmet came close. It was within 10-ish votes of making it into the top 60, but no other Vertigo book was particularly close.
I mean, technically, Alan Moore is a pre-Vertigo Swamp Thing, but
certainly,
consider it a Vertigo book. And then, of course, Hellblazer, right? Hellblazer was pre-Vertigo, but then it became a Vertigo book. So I think when we say Vertigo, we mean like exclusive Vertigo titles, like Fables.
Right, Fables was the next one that got
DMZ,
close.
Books like that were originally published from Vertigo itself. But yeah, it was really cool and amazing to put all this together. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And next year, Atari Force. No
was
DC
in there. There was a chance.
Oh, I voted. I actually voted for Armageddon. I don't joke. I vote every year for Armageddon 2001. Because in July is when I start doing my personal most wanted Marvel, DC, Omnis, Epic Collections, Absolute Editions, and DC Omnis. So, yeah.
But I just was really impressed, as I said all along, with the diversity of votes this year, and that the DC, it really feels like, and I'm interested in Tigereyes, what you think about this, it has its own flavor from the Marvel poll. The Marvel poll was like, lots of X-Men. This, we only had one Justice League book. The Marvel poll is like, every possible event that's not covered yet, we got to get it in there. This one, not a single event. It's just I feel like it really showed the different flavor of the people who buy DC omnibuses who aren't all the same as the people buying Marvel omnibuses. I don't know, what did you think about that spread of options?
First, it showed me how much I have to catch up on reading-wise.
Well, yeah.
Like, way behind. But yeah, I like the diversity. When I first saw the list, I was like, "This is really cool." Like it brought a smile on my face, and like everything got a little bit of love.
Yeah,
I thought it showed that the readers have some excellent taste, and they're not afraid to jump genres. I mean, Jonah Hex was on the list more than once,
twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
They're they are avid readers. I mean, I grew up in a world where if you were reading comics, you were perceived to be childish and infantile and so on, and you were somehow stunting it wasn't considered reading. It's like I was like, no, comic book readers are quite literate.
My wife, who's an English teacher, is a firm believer that it doesn't matter what the kids are reading to an extent. What kids are reading in class, as long as they're reading something, because that expands your brain and your vocabulary, and so she loves when kids are reading comics. That's why she has like comics in the classroom. So I never understood that argument about comic. Like, go read a Silver Age comic and tell me that it was written for kids, even though it was supposed to be. You guys are the best. Thanks for all you do. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a lot different, right? We didn't really get. I mean, I guess Legion of Superheroes was more like our in Indiana Jones.
Even for that, I'm a little surprised that Mark Waid's Legion wasn't on the list, because it's Mark Waid and it is a strong run, and it wouldn't take much to collect it.
And I really thought Bronze Age was going to be on there. But I guess, I joke and have been joking for months, but credit is really to Lars, and it kind of shows the power of things being titled right and mapped right for these polls. Like, and we saw some drops this year that in retrospect, I'm like, oh, we changed the title to the wrong thing. But it goes to show that with Legion, me trying to do it myself last year, I have a Legion guide, but I don't know the way that Legion fans talk to each other in whatever weird language they have with their Legion rings. But Lars knows, and I think that we should, the goal every year on these polls is like to endeavor to take the super fans approach to every line on every poll so that everybody feels like their stuff is being seen.
Yeah.
I tell you where this began, Chubby Ray Comics. My Legion ring did not work. Apparently, I found it in a Cracker Jack box, and it's not a legit Legion ring. So when I jumped off my roof, I ended up breaking my arm.
And you do start to get a little rabid for new material, because at the moment they're not even publishing Legion monthly.
No,
you
they're
know,
about to show up in
you're
Superman,
right.
but they don't have their own.
So when you're kind of starved, then the gaps become even more. You know, you hunger for them more. Omar, you did miss another super chat from Bruce, who's asking about Doctor Who.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me get that one.
I'm
Lars,
There you go.
absolute failure of Doctor Who. Go.
I know this is a show on DC. I'm gonna do this very quickly. It can't. Here's as best we can tell, the decision on how long to continue Doctor Who and Disney Plus was made in about 2022. You know, they decided very early on we're going to fund 26 episodes that includes what we've had so far and the new miniseries. So, like, could they have re-upped it? Sure, but it would have had to been like. You can't really call it a failure if it doesn't continue on Disney Plus. That was always sort of the plan. One presumes they could have thrown in more money if it had been an absolute supernova success. But yeah, they were basically like 26 episodes. There you go. Disney doesn't own it, so they don't. Even if it's whether it's considered a success or not, they don't own it. So I don't think it can be called a failure. Also, that we don't actually see the viewership numbers. Yeah, the decision whether to continue or not was taken a long time ago. There we go.
I even said the thing about my Legion ring. I'm not sure what else you want. Yeah, I think this year's poll showed the power of voting for sure. It changed a lot of the things, and then some things remained the same, which is always great to see that there's such a need for these things. Okay, Bruce is doubling down. He said, but the ratings were terrible, worse than Jodie's run. What do you think about that, Lars?
But you're looking at the terrestrial numbers, and you can't trust those. Because
trust the terrestrial.
The broadcast numbers on BBC One.
Aren't we all terrestrial? What are we talking about?
We're still talking about Doctor Who, you know.
I get that, but aren't we all terrestrial?
You know, in a world where it is shown globally on Disney Plus, you cannot solely go by the terrestrial broadcast numbers, which now suck for every TV show. I mean, you can't go, well, they suck for Doctor Who. They suck for all of them. You know, terrestrial television's in trouble. So that alone
don't
is not
start
a
that
metric.
again. Save it for a Wednesday chat.
Yeah, that alone is not a metric for success or failure.
I want to talk Legion with Lars, but I would fall asleep if he starts talking.
No, look, buddy, I understand. I'm just answering the question. We can talk Legion sometime.
Oh my gosh. I love that this is the Bruce versus Lars show. I'm going to have Bruce on the show one day, and the Omar versus Crisis show. The top 5 hottest takes by Crisis.
I mean, just of the day.
Or they
want to know what
Mark Wade's World Finest is so intensely boring. I can't believe any of you make it through 2 pages of it.
That's what. How did you write that one?
Well, his historical ones. Your loathing of the Ultimate line really sometimes.
Well, I just don't f with alternate realities. That's just like a personal preference. The moon is following us is a disaster, and Daniel Warren Johnson's biggest failure.
I didn't read them.
Tom King doesn't have a single interesting thing to say, especially not about women. He should be legally barred from writing them in comic books. I mean, gosh, could I do all DC? Oh no, I already did an indie.
Oh, they were asking what my top 5 choices are for your hot takes.
Your 5. I was just trying to generate 5 right now off the cuff.
I thought we were doing,
you
classic.
You never cease to amaze me about anything that comes out of your mouth. I think one of the ones that Peter and I get into, because we're both X-Men fans, right? Like, I think, I'm trying to keep it out of X-Men. So I'm going to say his take on Jeff Johns. I think I was
so boring.
I was blown away by his take on Jeff Johns. I was like, how can we not agree on this thing?
I sort of respect your take on Jeff Johns, even though
okay,
I would
Lars, you have no dog in this fight. Be quiet for a second. We're not talking about Doctor Who or Legion of Superheroes.
Your love of Greg Land's porno faces.
Love Greg Land. Love.
Yeah. What is with that?
For all the wrong reasons.
Like, you don't even like old Greg Land artwork. You like his new art style, which to each their own. Each their own. I get it.
We should have an Evergreen Crisis Takes show. That would be really
What's the one that shocked? Yeah, I think The World's Finest is the one that shocked me.
It's so boring. It's like incoherently bad. But anyway,
I don't get it. And then there's something you like that I'm like, what? Is there like a Mark Miller book that you like? I think you and
I like Magic Order.
That's it. And I was
like, that's his good book. That's his best book.
I still think Chrononauts was his best book. But that's just because he was having fun. He didn't care. Like, anyway, I thought it was something else that you liked that he did. What's another hot take?
That's even possible.
Oh, your recent hot take on Uncanny X-Men. I didn't mind
talk about a book that it's impossible to read without just wanting to like.
I dug it, man. I didn't see a problem with it. What?
But this is a DC stream. I got to generate more DC hot takes. I would have used to tell you that Batman is boring, but I think that actually what I've learned about from reading a lot of Batman, partially to be on this channel, is I like when Batman is like challenged. I feel like a lot of Batman fans just want Batman to like win every fight, solve every mystery, always be right, never get bloody, never get hurt. And I'm like, who wants that? It's no fun at all. Like, I love a Batman comic where he gets hurt a little bit, or where he doesn't figure out the mystery, or he has a wrong hunch. Like, I want to see Batman like put in the hard yards. So I used to think Batman was boring, but I actually have like located the Batman that I like now. Now I like Batman. So.
No, I agree with you, because comics readers can often be a lot more conservative in terms of risk taking than we like to pretend. Again, we go back to what I was saying about Grant Morrison. There are a lot of people who are like, I cannot stand Grant Morrison's run on Batman. What they really want is just meat and potatoes Batman. He goes out, he punches the villains in the face, he and it's got no surprises, no twist, no nothing. That's what they want.
The fact that you don't like Jeff Johns JSA breaks my heart.
I just don't like Jeff Johns. I think he's boring. So boring.
It's okay. It's okay to be wrong. Crisis would rather be called Pete again than read World's Finest.
No, I don't enjoy that name, and I would prefer not to be called it. Bringing it back to DC, though, DC put out just a little bit more than 40 omnibuses last year, and only 30 of them were from this top 60. But of course, a lot of other stuff came out. Partially that's because they put out so many stuff of like new Batman runs that didn't even have the chance to be on the bowl. So, I mean, just thinking about it, if they put out 20 that are weighted from this top 60, think of all the turnover that we could see again next year. I mean, we had so much turnover this year. I mean, there's so many things that were within striking distance that could be really interesting. And we might see some stuff like there's some more Bronze Age that might sneak in. There could be some Wildstorm that might sneak in if we cycle out 20 books. So that gets really interesting.
Yeah, that's all the hot takes that I don't agree with for Peter. But I'm sure there's a lot more every time.
We didn't even bring up Art Adams.
Your
oh god, it's weird as comic book fans, right? We take offense when somebody doesn't agree because we can't understand why they don't see the certain beauty that we do in the things that we love. And I've just come to expect whatever it is that I love, Peter is on the opposite side of that. And that's so no matter how something near and dear to my heart. And you know what? I also found out that my wife is also on the opposite side of things that I love. And she's like, I don't get it, but whatever. And I'm like, oh, but Starman is so important to me. She's like,
and I say this as a friend, your unilateral sort of almost love of Wildstorm makes me think that I must be missing something about Wildstorm. And not that I have any great hatred of Wildstorm. I certainly don't. But kicking up to that degree, I'm like, okay, I need to go back and re-examine some of this.
Well, I think, anything is exciting to me that's like a universe that's invented from scratch and not just kind of like reinvented. And I think a lot of the problems I have with alternate realities sometimes with like even Absolute and Ultimate right now, which are kind of failing a little bit for me, even though they're so hot and the market is like, yeah, but you're just telling stories that like are like, ooh, we couldn't tell this in the main reality. Yeah, you could. If you wanted to, you could. Or this is just like a little bit more violent. It's not as fun to me as creating something from scratch, which is why I love Wildstorm. I love OG Valiant. I just love seeing, I even read all of Lionforge Catalyst. I think I'm the only person on earth who bought every issue digitally of Lionforge Catalyst, because when somebody does a new shared universe, I want to see like how they put the bricks together. I even have checked out Jeff Johns and made a guide for Jeff Johns' Ghost Machine, like in continuity verse that have the unnamed, because I just love seeing how people build things. It's just fascinating to me. Wildstorm actually was really successful. Were all the comics individually amazing comics? No, I cannot tell you that they were. Did they have a really cool mythology that had so much to uncover and so many like interconnections across several different brands? Yeah, actually they did. So like that's me. And Shane, I want to hear a Tigereyes hot take. What is the most scorching Tigereyes comic books hot take?
I mean, I was going
Just
back
unleash your inner dirtbag.
I work in HR, but I'm not a.
Oh, that should come natural to you then.
So he's writing down all of these things that I say, and he's like, no, no.
I was no. I mean, nobody likes Bendis or Miller. I'm not a big Bendis or Miller dude at all.
People did. I mean, people love Bendis though, and people love Miller based on sales. Those books are huge sellers.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't. You know, and that's okay to keep it peaceful. You know, we have Crisis here for the insanity and madness.
Crisis likes Lady Death the other day.
I love Lady Death.
You talking about Brian Pulido's classic?
Yes,
Lady Death?
baby.
Yo, man, what is?
But here's the thing I always say that nobody ever like listens to this part of it. If it was you're in the 90s, you want to read books with cool female protagonists with cool hair, right? Marvel's got nothing unless you're reading X-Men, which I did. DC, there's only Wonder Woman, and because this was before Birds of Prey started. If you wanted to read books with female protagonists, you kind of had to buy a cheesecake book because that was the only way that women were on the covers of superhero comics at that point. So, yeah, you read Vampirella, you read Lady Death, and were they a little cheesecakey and used sex as a weapon sometimes, in the words of Pat Benatar? Yeah, but that's where you got your female protagonist. And then sometimes you'd have people try to turn it on its head a little bit with Glory, which was kind of like a send-up of that a little bit, especially as the series ran on. So yeah, I think a lot of my love of that stuff came from me in the 90s, just naively being like, I just want to read a book with a woman who kicks somebody's butt. How do I get one of those? And the only way to get it was to get booby comics, as I call them on my channel. Now, luckily, we have things like Cascane, we have things like Black Widow, we have things like, we have so many more options, and from the big two and all across them. We have Kea from Wes Craig, which I love, from Image. There's so many books now that you can see protagonists of all genders, which I love. But at the time in the 90s, you kind of had to sign up for some cheesecake on the cover if you wanted a female protagonist.
Yeah.
Do you think that has evolved into your love of Greg Land and
yes, 100%.
Xenoscope, and those type of books, right? That have female characters.
What's interesting is in the modern day, this is like a my channel video. I promise we're going to stop after this. But in the modern day,
I asked the question, so I'm interested.
My old person brain still sees one of those covers. I'm like, oh, it's going to be one of those comics that I love from the 90s. But today, now that there's so many good female protagonists available all across the market, sometimes a booby book is really a booby book. Sometimes you buy I was buying Lady Death on Kickstarter for a couple years there, and I read them. I'm like, oh, these books are really just about breasts. There's really not any other content.
How is that not a blurb on the back of the book?
It should be. Come at me, but
then
Zenoscope is still kind of playing this game where the interior of Zenoscope books, and I can say this faithfully because I've read every one for the last 10 years, and none of you have read any of them. They're not cheesecakey on the inside. They look just like any other comic book, and sometimes there's one kind of side of butt shot, but they don't look like the covers on the inside. They are just doing that to sell the comic books off the stands. So
are you in for that colossal Tomb Raider from Dark Horse then?
No, I'm not a big Tomb Raider person.
Video game or the comics? Because the comics
video
were
game. I mean, the comics were technically a Top Cow comic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quickly,
it's my love of Iron Man a hot take at this point.
well, no, a lot of people do like Iron Man.
Maybe, John. At this point, maybe.
Yeah. Everything you said about the joy and love of seeing a world crafted from scratch, I agree with everything you said there. I think there's also value in taking a familiar formula and just nailing it. I can defend Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis because even though he is standing on the shoulders of previous Spider-Man giants, I mean, he wades in and he nails it. And that is a talent I think is easy to underappreciate. So I like both, really.
All right. Well, there are
friends.
Your hot takes and my reactions, my live reactions to Peter's hot takes, which never ceases to amaze me. Thank you all so much for joining us. Smash that like button on the way out. Make sure that if you're watching this later to comment on the channel, let us know which of the books that you voted for made it on the list. And again, I will put the full list on Patreon in case you're wondering what book number 625 was of all these books, and no one's saying bang. It's not a DC comic.
And freakishly, if you want to support these titles, of course, again, go out and buy them. I think you already know that, but like, you know, the Marvel Masterworks line is, well, it's being put on hiatus or coming to an end. And why? Low sales. It's like, you know, instead of doing a writing campaign, people should go out and buy them in great abundance. That would really help. So buy DC. Buy a lot of DC.
All right. Where can people find you, Crisis, with your hot takes?
And my even hotter hair, I'm on crushingcrisis.com, where I mapped all of these. And I also do weekly releases posts where I'm catching up on now that I'm back from my poll season. And I'm also at Crushing Crisis on YouTube, where I scream about comics. If you thought these takes were hot, you should have heard the screaming on the show on Sunday afternoon. And I am there every Sunday talking about my poll list. It's been a pleasure. It is always an honor. It is my Christmas, holidays, and favorite Halloween outing to get to hang out with these folks, and especially to get to do the data part of the Tigereyes poll along with our poll master BFF, not Jim.
Omar, are you going to be in Charlotte this weekend? I am. If you're going to be at Heroes Con, I will be at Heroes Con all days. I'll be doing my live stream on Saturday from Heroes Con on the floor, on a table. So come and say hi. Tigereyes, you never want to be found, but
I have nothing to plug.
What would you like to
say? Thank you again for everybody who voted.
All right. Thank you so much, my friend. Lars, you were ready to go.
Sorry, it's storming here, and I just had to go quickly make sure I'm not going to die horribly in the rain. Lars Pearson, publisher and editor-in-chief of Mad Norwegian Press, formerly of Wizard, and I too will be at Heroes Con this weekend with Omar. So
Legion Ring or no Legion Rings, we will be together.
Legion Ring will be together. So if you're gonna be at Heroes Con, come see us, and we'll have a good time. Yeah.
Yes. Come and see us at Heroes Con. We are out of here for tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to DC for letting us know what you think of the list, and thank you for voting, more importantly. Bye-bye.